we've talked a lot about why my Wandering Minstrel deck and my history with it and how great it was, right? And how amazing that I could main phase an Adnaz. And I cast an Adnaz. If it resolved, I was going to win the game. But if it's turn 3, I don't know if I'm going to win the game. It's going to be very difficult. It becomes an incredibly uphill battle. There is a difficult balance that comes to playing Turbo Adnaz in 5 color that you need to try and find.
Welcome to the second official Deck Doctors. My name is TTC. I will be your MC, and we have our host here, D-Trove the Doc. Notably, before we get into the show, I just want to say quickly the house rules. Remember to use the stage chat to speak your opinions. I'll make sure to bring up the main points as you all bring them up, but we just ask that you be respectful both in the chat and if you're brought on stage, and just have fun. With that being said, how are you doing, D-Tro, brother?
I'm doing good.
Cool.
Got done watching a lot of games in the critical EDH, cEDH server. I watched like an incredibly long game where a RAW player was attempting to win, and somebody put a Heartwood Storyteller on the on the battlefield in response with a Court of Calling, where whenever you cast a spell, all of your opponents get to draw a card. As like a reverse silence effects to make you not want to cast spells.
Oh,
that was a very impressive game.
Oh my god, I gotta look this up. I've never heard of this. You said Heartwood Storyteller?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Y'all seeing TTC get put on. Hold on. Heartwood Storyteller, colorless green creature tree folk. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of the player's opponents. Why have I never seen this card before? What the heck?
It was a very popular card in, or I guess it is still, but in Yisan. I think Yisan used to play it because it was a part of a silence effect or something like that. I know Yisan players used to play it. From back in the day.
I dig it. I see. So because they don't play non-creature spell, or Yisan, they don't play non-creature, so they just get the benefit without feeding it themselves.
Yeah.
Well, the more you know. Okay, I ain't mad at it. Well, I learned something today. I like this. I might have to take a screenshot and check this one out later. But for the audience, I want to say to you all, thank you so much for being here. We're going to get into it. So I'm just going to transition everything over to D-Trove. Take it over, brother.
Yeah. So today we've got another couple of decks for you guys. We are going to start things off with a little bit of a natural, normal commander pairing, something that everyone has pretty much seen in cEDH, but since the recent, I want to say recent, but it feels recent to me, but since the bans about a year ago for Dockside, Jewel Lotus, and Mana Crypt, this commander pairing has not seen much play. We're going to be talking about Kraum Tevesh, the Grixis pair of double 5-drop commanders. For this list, something is pretty interesting about this list. So normally, when it comes to Grixis lists, you would expect the normal Underworld Breach package, a Thassa's Oracle package, Thassa's Oracle, Tainted Pact, and Demonic Consultation. This is what you would normally see in a Grixis-leaning shell like this. But this list is playing something a little bit different and is trying to attack the format and attack the game plan, attack the game in a different form. So what this deck, and TTC, if you don't mind, just going right to the card, the outlier here, Obliterate.
Yes, sir.
This is the defining spell, at least to Galaxy Collapse. This is their defining spell. They are playing a spell, a multi-wrath. So it hits, I'll just read it off. Obliterate for 6 colorless, double red, sorcery. Obliterate can't be countered. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They cannot be regenerated. So you might be asking, why play this spell? I have never seen this spell in any Grixis deck ever. Well, at least from what I can attain from this list, Galaxy is trying to play a list that relies on accruing value with Tevesh, blowing everything up, and then being the only player on the battlefield with any type of advantage features whatsoever. Setting your opponents back so far that they can't catch back up because it destroys all of your permanents except for enchantments. This list is very, very akin to a not older, I don't want to say older. It's just a version of ROG Tevesh that used to be played that is very similar to this, where you are trying to destroy all of or stacks the board out as fast as possible, prevent people from accruing any type of a value, and relying on Tevesh to be the only value piece that's able to get anywhere. From my understanding, from what I've seen in this list, and from what I can gather from Galaxy's form, is that they are trying to play this type of same game plan, where they're trying to control the board, stacks it out, put various pieces on, put various value pieces on in the color blue also, but also be able to counter spell and also be able to protect their important spells on the stack also. So, important thing to realize when it comes to Obliterate, though, is that it doesn't destroy enchantments. So if TTC, if you can scroll down to the enchantments, we can see how many enchantments Galaxy is actually running here. So they are running a total of 7, a multitude of different enchantments: Copy Enchantment, Counterbalance, Mirror Maid, the normal, Remora, and Rhystic, Copy Artifact, and Steal Enchantment. So because Obliterate destroys everything except for Planeswalkers and enchantments, these are pretty much going to be the only permanent spells that are going to be on the battlefield when Obliterate gets cast, right? So the game plan, from what I can see, is accrue value like normal in any Grixis deck, stop your opponents from being able to win the game, because this is a control deck, mind you. This is a control deck. That's why Galaxy is running Counterbalance, has a litany of the regular counter spells in the deck, but no Underworld Breach, so keep that in mind. But this is a control deck. So they accrue value just like any normal Grixis deck, controlling the board. There are a couple of stacks pieces in this deck that we'll get to, but the game plan is to accrue the value like normal, and then cast the Obliterate, set your opponents all the way back to the Stone Age, and you still be able to accrue some type of value through the multitude of enchantments that you're able to either copy, cast, steal, or accrue value through Tevesh also. They mentioned that their win cons are, I just want to make sure too, if you could scroll up to the creatures real quick, just to make sure that they have Thassa's Oracle. I wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so they do have Thassa's. So normal stuff, Thassa's Oracle. I believe there was a Meme Betrayal too in here. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Meme Betrayal. Okay, yeah. So Thassa's Oracle, Meme Betrayal, and player submission, right? Because who wants to play in a game where the 4 lands that you have all been destroyed? Your value engines not value engines, but your mana rocks have all been destroyed. You have no creatures, and none of this stuff can be regenerated. Nobody wants to do that. So that was their win cons. This deck is very interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because it is 2 commander pairing. It is 2 commanders that we don't traditionally see as much in the format right now. Tevesh, at least from my understanding and from where I'm coming from, is traditionally really only played with Thrasios, and even Thrasios Tevesh is kind of really more of a rare thing to see because people are going from Thrasios Tevesh to just Thrasios Tymna. But you normally see Tevesh with Thrasios, at least from my experience. Kraum is obviously a very popular commander, but only popular because he gives access to blue and red, arguably really powerful colors, and in conjunction with Tymna makes the best deck in the format. Combining both of these hasn't been really as popular because of the bans last year. I'm very passionate about these 2 pairings because I always think Tevesh is an incredibly sick card, and giving access to counter spells and access to Underworld Breach is huge, is incredible when it comes to Tevesh. And I want every day for there to be more Tevesh Kraum players, but I understand why it's not really seen as a commander pairing that's sought after, especially with Kefka coming in and just sweeping all Grixis decks out from under them. You know what I mean? Like when that commander got released, like all of the Grixis plans that I had in mind, besides like Rogside, got swept out from underneath it. So it's crazy.
I mean, it didn't help, but shout out to him. When Bissy first saw that pair, he said, "Hold on, there's something here," and he didn't wait. Like, "Hey guys, I got an idea." Now he said, "No, this is real. I'm gonna make a community for it." Like everything it is taken over. And flowers to Bissy Baxton for really championing that commander. But you're 100% right, D. I'm not gonna lie, like that. The community's real, you know what I'm saying? They really found all the aspects of the commander and kind of took a chokehold on that mid-range Grixis slot. Yeah,
100%. For the same mana cost and you get to run a lot more spicier cards. You get to run a traditional package. You can go turbo, you can go mid-range, you can go control. It fits all the margins, and you don't have to worry about two commanders in the command zone that arguably can give you advantage, but give you advantage at a slower rate than you would with Kefka, or give you at the same rate, but you get more out of it when you're playing Kefka. You know what I mean? Because you get to decrease the amount of cards your opponents also have.
Right. Yes.
But back to this deck. I think this is a very interesting choice. I think this is a very interesting choice to play these commander pairings and also play a spell that is a multi-wrath. It destroys your permanents also. And when it comes to playing stacks decks, stacks are incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to play stacks because you have to control 3 other players. That is, you can try to argue that is something that can be done in cEDH. It can, but it can be done only if you cast Rhystic, Mystic, Smothering Tithe, and you have Thassa's Oracle in the command zone. Like it's very, very difficult to do all that type of stuff. It's very hard. No,
you're right.
And unless your commander can play under stacks effects, so just like Time is able to play under its own stacks pieces because it is able to activate itself, get cards into the graveyard, and bring cards back from the graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's not playing like Grafdigger's Cage, you're golden. You know what I mean? You're able to play under the stacks pieces that you have in your 99. But to be able to do that and also prevent other people from being able to play the game and win the game with the normal traditional packages that they have is very difficult, especially when you're playing in the 3 most prominent colors in cEDH, with the 3 most prominent with the most prominent win cons in the cEDH also, except for Underworld Breach. Mm-hmm. So if you could, TTC, I saw a couple of stacks pieces. If you could go to the artifacts and give a little bit of an explainer as to why we're also not running Underworld Breach. There is a Grafdigger's Cage in this deck. If you scroll down, yeah, go ahead. And I'll read this off too. No, I can read this off. Thank you. Grafdigger's Cage for 1 colorless is an artifact. Creature cards can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries. Players can't cast cards in graveyards or libraries. So this is a great way to stop one of the most popular combos in cEDH, Underworld Breach. It stops Underworld Breach. It prevents creature decks from being able to tutor creatures onto the battlefield. It prevents Time from putting creatures from their graveyard onto the battlefield. It is a great stacks piece for only 1 mana, and it being colorless is a great way to prevent these popular win cons from being able to work. It also prevents Hulk lines, like Double Team 6 says.
Yes,
it also prevents Hulk lines. Yep.
All the reanimation shenanigans, goodbye Hoarding Brood Lord, all that stuff out the window.
Can't do any of that stuff. So I really do love that Galaxy did have the mindset, at least when it came to building this deck, that, hey, I want to put these pieces in the deck to prevent people from being able to win the game the traditional way, but I also have access to these cards. What do? You cut those cards. I understand that. That is a great way, a great mentality. At least, why play Underworld Breach when you're going to be playing Grafdigger's Cage? And then if you go down a little bit further into the artifacts, there's another card that also prevents Underworld Breach from being able to be played in this deck, and that's Weathered Runestone. So both of these cards prevent Underworld Breach from happening. So Weathered Runestone for 2 colorless is another artifact. Non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So it's just another Grafdigger's Cage effect for 2 mana this time, but there are 2 of these effects in the deck. Having Underworld Breach in this deck would not make any sense, because if either of these cards are out, you can't win with Underworld Breach. Simple as that. So this is very interesting, because like I said earlier, this is kind of got the same energy as Rog Tevesh. I will say for the Rog Tevesh deck, how this deck would win, and I'm not super familiar with it. No one I know has ever played this deck again. Well, I think I've played against it like maybe once or twice ever. Yeah. But how they do it is they would play a what is it called? Polymorph effect, spell, like Transmogrify. I think that's one, right?
Yes, I think that's the blue one, but they got a couple red ones. Oh no, yeah, they're 100% right. Here's that Transmogrify right here.
Transmogrify. So an effect like Transmogrify that allows that you are forced to exile a creature, which would probably either be Rog or one of your thralls, and then you would flip from the top of your library until you hit a creature. Now, for this deck, they're only running 3 creatures. They're running powerful creatures that will ultimately warp the game, and using Rograk as a mana battery to be able to cast these spells much quicker means that you are able to get these spells out turn 2, turn 3, turn 1, maybe even if you've got the nuts, you know what I mean? But this deck is trying to do the game plan of putting these stacks pieces, putting these value engines out on the battlefield as quickly as possible before any other value engines are out on the battlefield, before anybody has their Rhystic Studies out, before anybody has their Smothering Ties out, to prevent that from happening and warp the game in such a drastic way that it's hard to catch up to. So in comparing these two lists, the obvious thing is that the Rog Tevesh list has access to blue. It has access to Rhystic Study, Remora, counterspells to be able to prevent these powerful spells that you're trying to cast, these stacks pieces, these obliterate, to prevent obliterate from being exiled and things like that. You want access to blue. So the biggest weakness that they have right now, at least what Galaxy says, is that they are weak against turbo pods or turbo decks. So they see a Rao deck or they see Rogsai across the table. That sends, okay, I need to worry about that. How can we help this deck further, right? And I want to take another two paths here. I want to take a path where we are running with this game plan in mind with Obliterate in the 99, right? When you see a turbo pod across the table, let everybody know. The worst thing that a turbo player wants is all the attention on them. And when they come up and they have a Rogsai in the command zone, there's a Ral in the command zone, make sure everybody knows. Because when everybody knows that you're playing a turbo deck, and everybody knows that you don't care about what's going to happen, you just want to win the game as fast as possible, and everybody else is not doing that exact same thing, people are going to be scared. People are going to mull for interaction if you articulate that to them, right? So the first thing that I would do in your position, Galaxy, is to let everybody know, hey, this is Rogsai. They are in a better position than you. Please try to deflect that as much as possible. If they're ahead of you, try to emphasize that. If they're turn 1 and turn 2, they're in a better position than everybody else. You know what I mean? They're trying to win as early as possible. And if they try to deflect, if the turbo player tries to deflect, then just be like, okay, are you trying not to win on turn 1 or turn 2? And I might try, and it's just like, okay, that's the problem for me. Like that's a problem for all of us. True. So we all need to band together and prevent this from happening.
Yeah.
And then everybody mulls for interaction. You get to sit there with your expensive commanders in the command zone, but the game goes longer. The game goes to turn 5, turn 6 even. You know what I mean? You have the ability to accrue this value. You have the ability to cast Kraum or Tevesh, accrue more value. And then you slap an Obliterate on the stack. Everyone's looking at you like, I've never even seen this card. What does this card do? And then everyone's knocked back to the Stone Age, knocking rocks together and stuff because they don't have any lands or they don't have any mana rocks or anything like that. And you're the only one with value out. So that's where I would first off start. Next, I want to take a quick look at the interactive package here for this deck. So, got all the normal ones. Got Fire Covenant, Forceman. Okay, so I am actually on a little bit of a control kick myself, personally speaking. I am in the process of building some control decks myself. I love the idea that you've already gotten rid of Underworld Breach, that you're not on Necro, you're not on Ad Nauseam, you're not trying to win as fast as possible. No need. You're trying to control the game. I am a fan of the counterbalance. I'm a fan of probably adding Sensei's Dividing Top also. Because you are, I mean, they're not on it, right? Sensei's Dividing Top. Okay, so yeah, Sensei's Dividing Top and counterbalance is a great combination together. If you could pull Sensei's Dividing Top up, please.
I thought I could get there with S top. They're gonna make me spell out more. There we go.
I hate that. So Sensei's Divining Top is a 1 mana cost artifact, colorless. You can pay 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library, and then put them back in any order. You can also tap Sensei's Divining Top to draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. The reason why this is powerful with Counterbalance is because Counterbalance, if you could show us that, and I'll read that off to everybody. Counterbalance for 2 for double blue is an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell. If it has the same converted mana cost, counter that spell if it has the same converted mana cost as the revealed card. So when an opponent casts a spell, let's just say it's a talisman of some type for 2 mana, you reveal the top card of your library. It's a Thassa's Oracle. That talisman gets countered because it's the same converted mana cost. It becomes more powerful with Sensei's Divining Top because you are able to look at the top 3 cards of your library and rearrange them in any order. It also becomes even more powerful when you have Kraum out, when you are able to have a Rissexeti out, when you're able to have a Remora out, when you're able to have these spells that ultimately change the top card of your library so that your opponents are always guessing what's on top of your library. That is also very powerful. So I would honestly, since you're already on Counterbalance, probably maybe consider putting Sensei's Divining Top in the deck. You are also already playing Tezzeret Cruel Captain in the deck, which is one of my it's one of my favorite cards that's been released this past year. It's one of my favorites. Tezzeret Cruel Captain for 3 colorless. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on Tezzeret. For 0, untap target artifact or creature. If it's an artifact creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. -3, search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then -7, another ultimate that we're never going to care about, but I'll read it off anyways. You get an emblem with at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot artifact creature. So obviously, you can grab Sensei's Divining Top with this. You can grab Mana Ball with this. You can grab Soul Ring with this. You can grab Chrome Mox Diamond. You can grab all your 0 drops. You can grab a Skull Clamp, which is a powerful card that works with Tezzeret, or not Tezzeret. That works with the commander. Oh my god!
Yeah, I think you got it right.
No.
No, not Kraum.
Tevesh. That's what it's called. Tevesh.
I was like, you got it right. Tevesh. No. Tevesh, 100%. Yeah.
It works with Tevesh.
It's the team, bro. They know what we mean. They know what they mean.
Yeah. So it's Tevesh. It works with Tevesh because you make the thralls. When you make the thralls, you kill them with the Skull Clamp, and you're able to draw 2 cards. You are also able to get Grafdigger's Cage with this also. So there are a lot of artifacts that you have access to with this. And adding Sensei's Divining Top helps solidify the control package that you're trying to put together. So the only thing that I want to knock against this deck, I think that this game plan can work. I think that Tevesh Kraum as a commander pair in general can work. It's Grixis Shell. I think with the game plan in mind of using Obliterate as a piece to set your opponents back, I think it can work. Do I think it's the best thing to be doing in a Grixis Shell? I don't personally think so. I think that it becomes very difficult when you're playing stacks and you also get affected by the stacks pieces. Now, when it comes to Grafdigger's Cage and the Weathered Runestone, you've already made the conscious decision to take out Underworld Breach. That is fine. But there are a bunch of artifacts here. There are a couple of creatures here, okay? Value creatures. Those creatures are going to be destroyed when this Obliterate gets cast. Those mana rocks are going to be destroyed when Obliterate gets cast. Your lands are going to get destroyed when Obliterate gets cast. All it takes is for someone to play a Smothering Tithe, and Obliterate becomes irrelevant. That's all it takes. That's all it takes, because Smothering Tithe is an enchantment, and it'll not get destroyed by Obliterate. Right? Smothering Tithe. My favorite card in Magic the Gathering. For 3 colorless and a white. Yeah, for 3 colorless and a white, it's an enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a treasure token.
Mhm.
So this land, this card, this enchantment goes on the stack, resolves, obliterate, becomes irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant. I'm just gonna keep it, I'm gonna keep it a buck. It becomes irrelevant because when you cast the obliterate into a smothering tithe, whoever has it is going to keep that smothering tithe on the battlefield. Their lands are gone, yeah, their mana rocks are gone, but they're going to accrue more value. And your Tevesh is going to stay alive, but your Tevesh also draws cards. And I see that Praetor says just need to destroy the tithe. Well, here's the thing, right? When your game plan involves too many steps to not win the game, right? It doesn't really, for me personally, I don't really see a reason as to why to do that, because I have to show how this process goes, right? So you start the game, you play some mana rocks, you accrue some value, you cast some spells, you cast Tevesh for 5 mana, okay? Then you cast Obliterate for, what was it, 8? You cast Obliterate for 8. Or no, how my bad. So someone casts a Tithe, right? Cast a Tithe, you go to Chain of Vapor or something like that, the Tithe. They fight back on that. Ultimately, you end up winning. You invest a lot of resources into this. Then you cast an Obliterate for 8 mana. Then the Obliterate resolves.
I'm not laughing at it. But every time you say 8 mana, I'm like, we got a treasonous ogre in this bill. How we getting this? How we getting it out? Where my Draco Genesis at?
You have to cast Tevesh for 5. Then have enough mana to be able to protect whatever spell you're trying to use to cast or to get rid of Smothering Tithe. Then you have to go back and cast Obliterate too. That is a lot of steps that you have to work towards a game plan that ultimately doesn't win you the game. And there is an argument ultimately for what Praetor is saying too, because this is more of a control list. So those steps are more natural for a control list to be interacting with people and to make sure that people are not winning the game. So there is a reason to that too. Maybe I'm just too, turbo build or mid-range build. You know what I mean?
You're not crazy, brother. Keep going, brother.
But I think it's
crazy.
a little.
You're not crazy.
Yeah, it's about efficiency too, because you're also trying to interact with 3 separate people, right? You're trying to interact with 3 individual people, and for whatever card you use to stop a different player, the other 2 players didn't have to invest anything. Right, so you use a Chain of Vapor to get rid of a Smothering Tithe. Those other 2 players get to keep their spells also. It's a game of push and pull, right? And you've got to push the least amount, but get the most amount out of it. You know what I mean?
100%.
So
I hear what you're saying, brother.
I'm not a huge fan of Obliterate when it comes to when you're playing against white decks specifically. If you're not playing against white decks, you could probably cast that as much as you want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is something to worry about. Yeah. Also,
could I throw one more thing before? If I could just add on to even Noble brought up, Neko is pretty dangerous to place around as well, considering the player can just draw into a reset. You know what I'm saying? If they're doing more of a mid-range Necro strategy where you don't progress at turn 1 to turn 2, you get your Necro out turn 3 to turn 5. Now you got to worry about playing against white color identity decks that have Smothering Tithe and black color identity decks that got necropotence, or I wouldn't technically necro dominance, but really more of a necropotence, like they get the reset each time. So yeah, and if you try to remove the necropotence, they just pull a bunch of cards, and now you got to wait till they get the cards, then reset them, and it turns to this thing where I'm putting all this resources into stopping people from playing the game. Everything you already said, you're putting resources into people, stop playing the game. You're not really fully winning the game at that point. It's not guaranteed. But please keep going, brother.
And I do see that Galaxy is here with us today too. So we'll pull him in to get some more, a little bit more about the deck. But 100%. To just reiterate, because you came in a little bit late. I like the commander pairing. I think the commander pairing works well. I love the fact that you saw the hindsight in putting stacks pieces like Grafdigger's Cage and Weathered Runestone in the deck, and you're not choosing to run Underworld Breach. I think that really shows that you know what you want to do, right? When it comes to playing this deck, you have a game plan in mind. This is what you want to do. You want to cast out Obliterate. I cannot run Underworld Breach and these specific stack pieces in the same deck. So I love that. Love the commander pairing. I put in that the idea of using Sensei's Divining Top as another artifact that you could put in the deck to combo well with Counterbalance. I was mentioning that could be a good option to include into the deck. You're already running Tezzeret, and that is another artifact that you can tutor off of Tezzeret. And just to add on to that also, I am also a big fan of running Tezzeret, especially for Tevesh, because I love Tevesh so much. When you are running, not Tevesh, Jesus, the T's. When you're running,
you're good, brother. I was thinking, I thought. Side note, I thought you were saying the right thing when you said Tezzeret. So I ain't judging you, brother. You good,
yeah.
Tevesh. I know what you. We all know what you're saying, brother. You good, brother.
So another artifact that you could also think about to help cast Tevesh a little bit easier is Manifold Key. Manifold Key is a powerful artifact that I always love to run in both Tevesh decks and you're already on it. Perfect. So
quick with the stick, this spell, bro. Great minds, brother. They think alike, brother.
Yeah. So this spell works great in helping you get. No, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't forget it. You didn't forget it. It's in there. So Manifold Key works really great with being able to get it off of Tevesh, getting it off of Tezzeret, and it works really well with being able to cast Tevesh earlier because the zero cost mana rocks that you have access to, you can untap those, retap them, and all that type of stuff. And you're also on the One Ring too, so it all works and combos well together. Fantastic, love that. But to kind of push back with the game plan that you have in mind, Galaxy, the Obliterate can work. I think it can work. I just don't know if putting it in a Grixis shell is necessarily what we want to be doing necessarily, because it affects affects you. And all it takes is for someone to cast Smothering Tithe or someone to cast Necropotence, which both of those spells can be cast earlier, unless Dockside comes back. Your Obliterate is going to be cast arguably later into the game. So these spells have a higher potential of being cast before the Obliterate even gets into your hand, right? So when those spells enter the stack or into the battlefield, the Obliterate becomes harder to justify putting in the deck. And I am a huge fan of as little dead cards as possible. Unless your commander is able to take advantage of those dead cards in an astronomical way, I'm not a huge fan of running those. And those enchantments, specifically enchantments that gain value like that, become harder to justify for me personally. Obliterate is a win with Tevesh.
100%. Yeah.
I will say that is most likely going to be the case. I want to argue that I don't know how much that's really going to happen, but Obliterate can't be countered, and a lot of people are not going to expect a Grixis deck to be running Obliterate, so like there will probably be a lot of games where you're casting that spell and you're able to do what you said, like force a submission. Nobody can do anything, all the lands have been destroyed, all the artifacts have been destroyed, no one can play any creatures. Only thing that matters right now is Tevesh. So as much as I want to say I personally wouldn't do it, but you if we were in a game together, you would definitely blow me out with it because I would not be expecting it 100%.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Yeah.
It doesn't destroy Tevesh and is used only as a late game option. The rest of the package is used for sandbag on enchantments. Obviously, Necro has been so far the biggest downside. And true to build off of that is the main issue that you do, at least from what I've seen from your form, have a problem with, because every turbo deck is running, except for Rao, thank God, is running Necropotence.
Think of Rao as Grixis, but please keep flowing, brother.
Yeah, and they're about to get Manamorphose in February. No, I'm good. But yeah, all the turbo decks are running Necropotence. So
100%.
Yeah.
No, I definitely hear what you're saying. Could you give your perspective? We got Gen Fusion and also Noble talking on the aspects. We'll be touching on a lot of things with cEDH, but when you have the hard enforced times within TDH, I know you have some TDH, the tournament scene as well. You have some experience there. Could you talk to this game plan and how you would see it being affected within that TDH space and the draw epidemic that's going on right now within TDH? Apparently, it's beginning a little bit better, but still.
Yeah. So in a casual cEDH, game, obliterate can 100% work. I see that. When you move up to tournament play, and Galaxy says, my top 4 game I lost to Roxai. Continuing on with the issue with turbo decks, but moving to tournament cEDH, which from that comment that I just read, I imagine you've taken this to a few tournaments. It becomes harder to justify it because of the time limits. Stacks decks and force submission decks are the enemy is the clock. You think that your enemies are the people who are playing across from you, but that's not the case. You've got a fourth enemy, and that's the clock. The clock is actively working against you. And in some situations, if you are lucky to get to the top 4, right? There are no, like in top 16 for most tournaments, right? I've never been to a tournament where there's been draw cases in the top 16. There might be sometime soon. I don't know. But in most cases, top 16 games, there are no draws. If you make it to that point, no one is going to force a situation where a draw is going to happen. You're not going to get any points. The person who has the highest, I think it's like win percentage or like the highest amount of points going into the top 16 or into that pod is going to get those points, at least for my limited. I've never been in top 16, but that's from my understanding, that's how it works, right? So when you do cast and obliterate, then the game gets warped in such a capacity that if you're not able to secure that win as quickly as not as quickly as possible, but in a timely manner, in a timely fashion, even though there's no time limits. Well, some top 16s have time limits and some don't, but you know what I mean. It becomes harder to justify the obliterate in that specific case. Now, does that mean that your game plan of obliterate is not worth it? Maybe not. Maybe you've accrued so much value with Tevesh and so much value in general that you don't necessarily need it. You've stolen a smothering tithe. You've got 2 Ristics. You've got a 1 ring. Cast that obliterate. The 1 ring's not going anywhere. It's indestructible. So
synergy.
Yeah.
100%. No, I definitely hear where you're coming from. Yeah.
In those type of situations for TEDH, it becomes harder to justify that because you're not playing stacks, right? You're playing control, which is a version of stacks. You're playing control, but at the same pace as everybody else until you cast the obliterate, right? You're countering spells, you're stealing stuff. You're not slowing the game down for everybody. You're just trying to, tempo's not the right word, but you're trying to control the deck like everybody else is trying to control the deck. You're trying to cast spells. You're not trying to put a piece on the board and just wait behind that piece and stop the whole game. You know what I mean? You're trying to interact with people with interaction spells, with spells, 1-for-1 spells, until you cast the obliterate.
100%. Yeah. If I can just add this on, I really do like the points you brought up there. I've never heard it said exactly like this, but I just want to restate it that I really loved. You have an extra opponent. Like, you're not just going against those 3 players. You're going against the time. And whenever, for me, I love the past elite resistance when I'm playing like cEDH or TEDH. And I just, in my mind, just thinking about like, dang, now I have to fight against the time clock because my deck has a tougher time. Maybe you do have Thassus, so you can just natural. Just Thassus Decon, Thassus Tainted turn 1 to 3. Cool. But like, now that I know that my deck has an uphill battle, not just against my 3 opponents, but against that timer, I know for me personally, that's when I start to look at like, what can I do to make sure that, especially if I want to stick to the obliterate game plan, that I can squeeze that time down so I can be able to fit into that 80-minute time, give or take, whatever your local meta does or whatever not. So very good points brought up, D-Trove. Very, very good points.
And I'll just go to Galaxy too. To what they're saying in the chat. So, and this is what they're saying. So usually my main list is Anala. That's what I'm known for. So usually time isn't a problem for me. When it comes to Kraum Tevesh, I have already known time limit is an issue. I usually don't go for obliterate early unless the commanders in the pod, unless the commanders unless my commanders are in the pod, can kill, or the One Ring can kill my opponents. In top pods with no time limit, I'm fishing for unexpected obliterate. Casting it early is also bad because people can see you cast obliterate and use that knowledge to into top pods.
Okay.
I'm trying to get my thoughts oriented for this.
Can I throw something in real quick and we can bounce off each other?
Yeah.
The first thing that pops in my head is, first of all, Nala is a hell of a deck. If you all do not know this deck, it is the Eminence Commander, correct? For Wizards.
The Wizard's Eminence. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I really like Nala. I haven't brewed it yet, but I like it a lot.
Oh,
yeah.
Nala is so funny because your win con is Spellseeker, but it's not actually Spellseeker. It's like cast Spellseeker. You guys give up?
Because the 25 steps.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and I'll tell you this, D, you probably noticed this from my playstyles. Outside of Rionia, I've been realizing that I love Reanimator in cEDH, whether it be Sign of the Ur Dragon, Tiamat, or everything. So I just want to give you flowers that this is actually a deck that pops in my head from now and then. If I ever brew a Grixis deck, I definitely think I'm going to mess around with the Nala. But the point I would really do say, in addition to your very good taste in Reanimator decks, muy delicioso, your very big points about playing around, not playing obliterate early in the tournament, so then late in the tournament it doesn't affect you from like knowledge and top pots. That I hear where you're coming from. I will add to that though, what about the next tournament where now you made it to the top pod? They know about what you're doing, and in your Swiss of your next tournament, whether it be your local or someone sees the deck and they're like, hey guys, they run obliterate. We don't need to target them, but if they start to ramp up a lot of mana, we need to be aware about it. Then your brewer's advantage goes away. Not to mention, for me personally, if I don't feel comfortable, I play a lot of decks that people can define as wherever they want. I call them meta busters. I want my decks to be able to function when people don't know what they're doing and when they know what they're doing. That's why I define a meta buster. And if I intentionally, or if I know that I can't cast certain cards in my deck because people know about them, like, then I need to have a conversation. For me, when I'm brewing, I ask myself, should this be in the deck at all? Now, that's not to tell you what to do with your deck or say to run or to not to run. It may be an adjustment to play style. Like, there's infinite possibilities, but I think that's extra pieces that I would chew on for a little bit from my perspective as a meta buster brewer who loves to bring things that people don't really expect, because that's just my preferred play style. I don't want to have a 20-minute conversation before the game starts. Like, hey guys, I know I'm playing Rogsai and I know D-Trove correctly accessed my deck. We can turbo deck, but guys, how did my guy Isaac do it? I'm just a whittle guy. Don't worry about me. I'm just a whittle turbo deck. I'm just playing my deck. So I don't want to have to work up a hill to do that. So that's me personally, and that's how I navigate these meta buster brews for me personally.
Yeah. I want to go back to what Galaxy said too, and they have convinced me a little bit more for the obliterate for them personally, because going into those top pods, those top 16 pods, which I don't ever want to be in a situation where I have to like build a deck specifically for only if I get to the top 16, right? So, but you've been in the top 16 before. You said that earlier, Galaxy. So you have experience with this, and you've shown that you can manage to get to that top player spot. So in those top player pods, casting that obliterate is backbreaking. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It is, and with no time limit, as long as you are able to get that Tevesh online and you're able to get those specific enchantments out onto the battlefield, or steal your opponent's enchantments to prevent people from being able to accrue any value, there is actually like a spot for obliterate to be an actual card to play in this list. However, my caveat is that this sorcery costs 8 mana. It costs 8 mana. You have to cast you don't have to, but you have to cast your assortment of enchantments. You have to cast Tevesh. You have to be able to also prevent your opponents from having specific key cards out onto the battlefield, or being able to have key, you have to prevent your opponents from casting key spells. That is a lot of hoops to jump through. And especially when you're playing control and you're trying to prevent people, and you're playing control at the same not rate. I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, but at the same level as everybody else. Unlike a stacks deck where they're playing permanent pieces that prevent and slow the game down, you're playing interaction pieces, force of wills, swan songs. You're using counterbalance, which all are, is a permanent, but you're playing a lot of the same traditional spells that are normally played in a lot of other Grixis decks. When you're playing at the same rate as everybody else, but you're trying to do something a little bit different, that's where I kind of find a little bit of a worry, personally speaking. I do think that there is a world where Obliterate can work in those top pods and even in the twist rounds. Yeah, that's what they call it, twist rounds. There is a spot for it. But, I mean, I guess I could ask you this since you're here. How reliable is it for you to cast Tevesh? I mean, if you're playing the control game plan, obviously the game goes a lot longer. So you have the right game plan in mind when it comes to wanting to be able to cast Obliterate, Tevesh, whatever other value engines you have also. That is the correct game mind state to be in. I just worry about investing all this mana into this type of stuff and waiting too long. You know what I mean? Or trying to get the Obliterate going off, but then somebody else says something. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a little bit different. I'm not saying, and it's not so drastically different it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Obviously it's working. You've gone to top 4 with this before. You know what I mean? So obviously there is something here that is working properly for you. You know what I mean? But just, that is a lot of mana. That is a lot of mana. That's a lot of mana, and your commanders are a lot of mana.
Yeah. Do you, and this is a question, not a statement. I know in Tiamat, I play an 8 mana, 6 colors, 2 red, Dracogenesis, as well as a 8 colorless, 1 pip. What is my guy called?
8 colorless.
Dragonstorm. Yes. And so that's a 9 mana spell, and I leverage my favorite way. Of course, I do the reanimator, so I have options for Burnt Offering with Horde and Blue Lord. But one of my favorite ways is just with Treasonous Ogre. Would you recommend it because they're not using their life total? I'm in the energy of making it work, ? Or do you think that's too divergent on they don't have enough red things that they're trying to get out mana-wise? Or do you think maybe the Jessica's will be enough? Kind of, what do you think? Or maybe even one of the other rituals. I'm really in the questioning mode here. I
think there could be. I definitely think there could be a spot for Treasonous Ogre, 100%. Okay. Treasonous Ogre allowing you to be able to cast a lot of these red spells a lot easier, and Kraum and Tevesh a lot easier. Tezzeret, being able to cast Tezzeret and convert your red mana into blue mana too, is also a path that works too. I definitely can see where this is coming from. I think there is a spot for it, but I think it's good enough to where there's a spot for it, but I think it comes down truly to what Galaxy wants to do and if they have a problem actually being able to cast Obliterate.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, if they have a problem casting Obliterate, or they want to cast Obliterate more often, you know what I mean? If they want to cast it a little bit earlier, they can switch some cards around to put Treasonous Ogre in the deck and be able and have access to do and be able to do that. But I think it truly does come down to if that's an issue. I don't think they necessarily need it. From my understanding, from what Galaxy has already said in the chat,
very good.
They have been able to cast the spell no problem, no issues, and have Tevesh out. I don't know what world that could be the case, but apparently it's happening in our world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm saying, if it ain't broke,
apparently
don't
it is
fix
happening.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, but I think there is a spot for it, but I think it's completely and utterly up to them if they want to put that in the deck. I think 100%. That's a player store, play style and stuff like that. I think
Understood.
That is.
Yeah. They have brought up Tevesh first, Kraum second, Obliterate later is typically the order. Typically, you also have enough mana to flood everything to float everything and cast Obliterate plus Kraum. Whoa! To cast Obliterate plus Kraum, which is harder to deal with. Interesting. Yo, so you get 8 plus 5 mana to cast Kraum? or recast Kraum, because recast Kraum is 8 mana plus another 7. That's 15 mana. Whoa. Tell me your ramp package. That's kind of interesting. Let me see. But yeah, the mana can be tough. It's why I'm as deep as Thran Dynamo. Okay, and the last thing they said is, but yeah, the mana can be tough. That's why I'm deep as Thran Dynamo. T-Ogre is interesting, but I'm worried I might get my face beaten in. I'm willing to try it. Okay, and yeah, interesting.
If I could say something about T-Ogre again, about the life total thing. There's something you do every time when you play Tiamat. Where you're like, I don't use Necro, or I don't. Well, yeah, you're not on Necro Adnaz in Tiamat, right?
I'm on Necro, but because my main win cons are Dream Halls and Dracogenesis and Dragonstorm, people they'll hit me, but if there's a rock, I'm not the top priority. Yeah.
I guess it's my favorite thing to do. My favorite thing to do is be like, I'm not on Necro. I'm not on Adnaz. These spells are not good in this deck. I'm more of a control package. My life total does not matter with those spells. Like, I'm not running them. And then you bust out a T-Ogre, and it's just like, I didn't say anything about T-Ogre. When have you guys ever seen a T-Ogre in Tevesh Kraum? You guys have never seen this. You've never seen something like this before.
Yeah, that's real.
I'm gonna go down to 3, by the way. Cast Obliterate.
Type. No, and you know what? There's no creatures on the board, and there's no more mana to cast those creatures. Yeah. Hey, dude, like you politic people not to bash your facian. You're the control play, and you have these little creatures here because of Tevesh. So you got little chump blockers. I think you're onto something, D. Yep. The doc, I think you owe us something, brother. Like that's a good political line. Like, I'm a control deck. I don't play Adnaz Necro. I don't care about my life in total. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You just keep it pushing. Because if I can even add this, one thing I traditionally say about T-Ogre, because it'd be like, oh, you're on T-Ogre. I'm like, yes, but the difference between T-Ogre and a Necropotence is Treasonous Ogre converts into mana. Necropotence Adnazim converts into cards. So because those things convert into cards, I need T-Ogre plus the actual piece to make it matters. Because there's many times where people will see me discard a T-Ogre. He's going to reanimate layer. It's like, I just don't have the pieces to make this a relevant card. And this looks like it's going to go to a long late game. You can hit me if you want. But I'd probably at that point already planning to hard cast a Dragonstorm or Dracogenesis or Dream Halls at that point. And so I bring up this example to say that is another thing that you can leverage, that even when people know you are on Treasonous Ogre, unless you are a Itali that can like click a T-Ogre down turn 1 to 2 and just win the game, people really don't care. Like, psychologically, they're still going to hit the Ad Nauseam player, the Necro player, the Bolas Citadel player, and all the other things. So, yeah.
So, we've said a lot of things, and I kind of get the sense, too, I mean, I've helped out a little bit, but I kind of get the sense, too, that I haven't made any, like, direct changes to the list. And I think this is just an interesting enough list that it is so interesting that it needs to be edited and worked on by you personally, or by somebody who's personally going to work with you as a player to get a better understanding of you as a player, because this is a unique deck. It is based off of player skill, really. You've managed to convince me that Obliterate can be played, right? It's not really my personal play style, but it works because of what you've said recently, Galaxy. So I understand that. So my takeaways from this: maybe add Sensei's Dividing Top for a little bit of extra control, security when you're playing Counterbalance. When you're playing Counterbalance, politics, talking, using your words are going to be monumental when it comes to playing this deck, because you're going up against 3 other people, and because you're also going up against a clock in some cases too. You need to be able to use your words in order to facilitate and allow and guide people into doing things that you want them to do. Yeah. So that I really can't make any adjustments or changes. I will say, because I'm on a control commander kick myself, I've really been wanting to put Commandeer in decks also.
Good one.
Commandeer is a very powerful spell. I'm always a fan of it. I always think back to the last time I was at a tournament and somebody Praetor's Grasp my Smothering Tithe from my deck, and then I commandeered my Smothering Tithe back. I mean, you've never felt anything like that, commandeering your own spell and preventing a what was it, the dragon Corvold player from having my Smothering Tithe. It's fantastic.
Crazy.
Yeah, it would have been bad, but I had a commandeer, so I would recommend commandeer. I also would recommend, what is it called? The enchantment that turns things into frogs.
Amphibian Downpour.
Yep. Amphibian Downpour. I would also check out Amphibian Downpour because you're already on the Obliterate package and you don't necessarily really care that much about your creatures because you're going to be casting Obliterate at some point in time further in the game. Play Amphibian Downpour to prevent those creature-focused decks from being able to have their creatures. You know, it works out great. And I've always had a fear whenever I've played Amphibian Downpour that someone's going to deflecting swat it back to my creature, to my commander. But your commander is Kraum. You know what I mean? Your commander, while powerful and a good way to draw cards, is not necessarily like super important. You know what I mean? So you don't have to really worry about it bouncing back. And if your game plan is to keep Tevesh online, well then Tevesh is not a creature. Tevesh is a planeswalker. It's not going to get hit by Amphibian Downpour.
Yeah. If I can just add one thing on the Amphibian Downpour, I rebuilt Marnie's Calgo recently. This is a almost, if not guaranteed to be a staple in that list because of the Storm trigger. Each copy coming down. When you have Marnie's on board, you draw another card. A certain point within the game, within the stack, this can be like a baby, if not full blown ad nauseum, if you allow a stack to go on long enough. You don't even care about shutting people's creatures off at the point. It's really broken. It's really cool. Play Marnie's Calgar. I see Gavin enter the chat with the Marnie's Calgar logo on there. What's up, dude? Good to see you. Oh, top 3 Marnie's card. You know, with that being said, even outside of Marnie's Calgar, if I can just add on to what D-Trove said, a conversation I had with Bissy Baxon about 2-3 weeks ago is what I loved his terminology where he said, I like, as a control deck, he was playing Control Kennen, I like to lock people's commanders places where it's inconvenient for them. Because sometimes just bouncing into the hand, they just recast it. Or you kill it, they just recast it from the command zone. But if you can lock someone's commander in perpetually on board and they have to waste a resource like an Odawara, Chain of Vapor, or something to sort to bounce it back to hand or to kill it and then have to recast it, at that point, now it's almost like you flipped the control problem where I have to use one resource against one person and then the other people, 2 people don't care. Now I use one resource, affects everybody, and then now they in addition have to use resources to unlock their commander or their whatever critical piece, a Seaborn Muse or whatever, not Thrasios, whatever not, to unlock the board again. So it's I'm with you 100% with this suggestion, D-Trove. I think this is a really, really good suggestion and definitely something you can, and it's an enchantment, but it'll kill the creature, so it doesn't really matter. But it's another enchantment if you want to do a baby enchantment tribal, just as a joke. But yeah, it's cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm definitely all for, because you're going to be on the commandeer, maybe snapback too, adding a lot more blue centric interaction pieces and spells, so that the specific pitch spells that you run in your deck, you'll always have access to be able to pitch blue cards to it, is something to consider also. But other than that, I think you just got to get more reps in it, man. I can't really, other than what I've said already, those are the bare bones things, you know. To get to the nitty gritty of how Grixis Obliterate is going to work, that's on you. I can play it, but man, that is buck wild. It is something else, you know. It is something else.
Yeah.
But I would really love, personally, you keep playing the deck, let me know how it works, because I honestly was going to go into this today and kind of try to convince you not to run it, but there is an argument, there is a specific spot for it, and I cannot deny that. You know, it'd be wrong of me to sit here and say don't run it, don't do it. You got the top 4 with it. I haven't gotten the top 4 anywhere, you know what I mean? So you're doing something I'm not doing, you know what I mean? So there's a spot for it. I can't deny it.
Yeah, no, that was amazing, D. I'm not gonna lie, and I agree. Yeah, like if I can just very quickly just add on, if it's working for you, brother, or it's working, or whoever you are, keep doing what's working for you. You know what I'm saying? For me, I don't love dragons, but for some reason, Tiamat side of the Earth Dragon, I'm just good at Dragon Reanimator decks for some reason. I found my flow. So someone could say it all day, that sucks. I'm like, but I keep winning with this. I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. So I agree a lot with what D-Trove says to obliterate, and with running obliterate if it works for you. And I loved especially what he touched on, which is when it comes to edits, definitely these are gonna, because this is a deck that you've catered to you, your play style, your meta. Really, you are the ultimate authority to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm going to add, not add, or consider hard for this list, or anybody who has a close hand in the making of this list. So I think that was phenomenal advice as well. So keep doing what you're doing, Galaxy. This is a really awesome Tevesh Kraum list. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Very good. All right. You ready to transit to the next one, brother?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it.
All right. So we've got another kind of a little bit more normal than the Tevesh Kraum list. We're talking about Terra Magical Adepts. This is normally a turbo ad nauseum 5-color good stuff deck. Now, as of late, the 5-color soup decks are getting up there. And by getting up there, I mean they're securing wins. They're securing the top 16s. They're getting higher placed because green has gotten a little bit of a boost when it came to Cabbage Merchant, that's what it is. But obviously having access to literally any spell created that's legal in Commander, having access to any of those spells, and a pretty decently costed Commander that does something pretty interesting, it sets you up to be able to win the game. And with Terra, and I'll read it off here, Terra Magical Adept, for a colorless red and green. She is a legendary creature, human wizard warrior. When Terra enters, mill 5 cards, put 1 enchantment card milled this way into your hand. Do I have to go over the second? I guess I got to.
Sure. If you want to.
I really don't.
No, forget it. Here's the back of the card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause the video. Yeah. Let's get to it. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, it's the back can be relevant, but from what I've seen of the list, they're not on Spark Double or any of those type of combo pieces that actually do work with the tap ability that Terra has. But there's no need to do that. It's a 3-drop commander that's a 2/4 and can mill your graveyard to fuel your breach a little bit more. That's the relevant part of this deck. So for Blaziken, their issue when it comes to this deck is that they feel like they don't have enough silence effects or interaction specifically when it comes to this deck. And I think where that is coming from, as somebody who's played Turbo a lot, and like not just Turbo, like heavy Turbo, like so heavy Turbo that I have, like the blinders that they put on horses so they can't see anything except when they're going straight.
Yeah.
The equivalent of that with Wandering Minstrel.
Yeah.
So the light on interaction issue is probably because you have access to every spell created in Magic the Gathering. You have access to all of the counter spells that we play in cEDH. You have access to all of the silence effects that are in cEDH. So it becomes harder to pick and choose what to put into the deck because you have access to everything. The strength that comes from actually limiting the amount of colors you have means that your pool of cards to select from becomes thinner, which is actually sometimes a good thing. When you have access to everything, you can't, piece of candy here, piece of candy there. You got too much on your plate, but when you limit the amount of colors you have access to, it actually becomes easier to choose what cards you want in your deck, right? So
that is so
when you
good,
also, yeah. And then you also add on to the fact that you're playing Turbo, which means that your color switches from, oh yeah, it's just all colors, it's 5 colors, to now it switches to, it's kind of more of a Grixis show, which already cEDH leans into too, right? There are prominent colors in cEDH that you need to have access to, depending on what you're doing in cEDH. It's Grixis, and it becomes harder to balance those effects. It becomes very, very difficult to balance all of those effects. And when you are trying to make sure that you have the correct silence pieces and silence effects in the deck, you gotta be very, very picky. You gotta be very picky. And I chose this list because I have a solid amount of time on Wandering Minstrel. It was one of my go-to decks for a very long period of time, and it was a deck that I realized that I wanted to make so turbo focused that if I'm not casting Ad Naus at some point in time in the game, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing anything. And I wanted to embody that mentality as much as possible when I was playing that deck. Now, that might not be the case when it comes to Terra, to your Terra deck, Blaze a Kitten. You know, your Terra deck seems to be a lot more responsible than my Wandering Minstrel deck is, for sure, 100%.
But
which is not a bad thing.
No, I gotta you're overselling it, but I gotta oversell it even more because you're overselling it, but it still feels like an undersell. You had the most consistent converting Ad Naus deck that I ever saw. Where your deck never failed at converting a main phased Ad nauseam into a win, and I loved every time. It was one of the storm decks technically that I did not mind watching you do your thing because of the puzzle that you put together and all the lines and the tech you did. So I know I definitely hear you. I just have to add even more to that. Like, dude, you really did some crazy things with that Wandering Minstrel list with all the lines to bring that early game consistency. With the turning Ad nauseam into a win. So, 100%.
And going back to the Wandering Minstrel thing too, one of the things that I had to realize when it came to that is there are some sacrifices that you have to make. Grand Abolisher is an incredibly powerful card. You know, being able to prevent people from being able to activate abilities, artifacts, or anything like that, and the only thing that can stop you per se when you're attempting to win with a Grand Abolisher out on the battlefield, on your battlefield, is some type of channel effect or something like that. That's the only way that somebody's going to be able to stop you. That's incredibly powerful, but that's double white. That is double white pips in a deck where you're trying to cast an Ad nauseam, which is primarily all black.
Yeah.
You know, so casting something like Beseiju to hit your Underworld Breach or to hit your Necropotence, channeling an Odawara to bounce the Grand Abolisher back to your hand. You know, these are very powerful effects that stop Grand Abolisher, but those are the only effects that can stop Grand Abolisher. You know what I mean?
Touch, but yeah, same.
Oh, touch. I haven't seen touch in ever.
That's actually real. That's weird.
Tivit plays touch.
Yeah,
Tivit's been coming back into the fold and has been playing touch. But from my understanding, from what I've seen, those are the ones that are 100% in almost every deck that can run them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the most prominent ones. So having that Grand Abolisher effect is incredible. But when your deck is leaning more towards black, blue, a little bit of red, it's hard to really get that Ad nauseam going if you're trying to win as fast as possible. It's hard to get that Ad nauseam going and then turn that into it's hard to get that Grand Abolisher going and then turn that into an Ad nauseam after you've potentially already used maybe like your scrub land to tap for a white, or you've used your Tundra to tap for a white, but you don't have any other access to blue pips. It becomes very, very difficult in 5 colors. Blaze a Kitten says, I was looking to cut some of the silences if I could speed up the win just by a turn or two. Now, I want to say, we've talked a lot about why my Wandering Minstrel deck and my history with it, and how great it was, right? And how amazing that I could Bane Phase and Ad Naus.
My favorite list
every time. Yeah. And I cast an Ad Naus. If it resolved, I was going to win the game. But I'm not playing that deck anymore because it's the version that I built was not parasitic, but if it's turn 3, I don't know if I'm going to win the game. It's going to be very difficult. It becomes an incredibly uphill battle, right? So there is a difficult balance that comes to playing Turbo Ad Naus in 5 color that you need to try and find, where you need to try and find the range where, like, okay, turn 1 and turn 2, like turn 2, turn 3, I can do an Ad Naus here. Can I protect it though? Can I make sure and ensure that this turbo win is going to happen, right? Because for me, I cut so much interaction. I cut Mind Break Trap. I thought about cutting Force of Will. I thought about cutting so much stuff because I wanted my Ad nauseam to be the best card in the deck. I wanted it to work every single time, and it did work every single time. But there are going to be games where you're in 4th seat and you mull to 4, and you just can't get it going. And you don't want to be in those type of positions. You have to find the right balance. So if we can go back to Blaze of Kittens list real quick and look at the interaction. So they said that they were struggling a little bit with interaction and silence effects. So from what I can see, they're running silence. They are running Voice of Victory for silence effects, and that's it.
They got regular silence and technical.
Yeah.
It's a soft silence, I like to call it, with Veil, and they got another soft silence with D-Grid, technically.
Okay, D-Grid. Okay.
Okay. So they got 2 soft, 2 hard silence.
All right. So what I have to say, Orim's Chant, first off.
Thank you.
That bad boy in
Thank
there.
you. Thank you.
You can put Orim's Chant in the deck. Orim's Chant is very, very good. And in some situations, I know TTC, you have replaced Orim's Chant. You've replaced Veil of Summer with Orim's Chants in some of your lists, right? Or am I wrong?
Yes. Yeah, that was a switch I made. It's hard, but what I've been finding it was actually a funny thing. Once again, conversation I was having with Bissy. A lot of times, you will find yourself in a situation, especially when there's only one other blue player, where you really only need to stop one player from interacting with you, and then at that point, once, like for example, in the game that we played, I was playing early iteration of my Turbo Silent list, only had to Orim's Chant you, and I didn't get there because I needed a way to stop your Death Right Shaman from the combo I was trying to go for. But really, after I was able to get that Orim's Chant through, the other 2 players were non-blue players. Like one was like Hebrew Hercules on his Timna Dargo list.
Oh, yeah, Timna Dargo, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
it is a while.
Yeah, it was a while back. And then it was our guy. What's our guy's name? On the colorless list, he was playing like
D-Mage.
My homie D-Mage. He was playing 7 mana commander.
Oh, Kozilek.
Yeah. So, all right. Maybe Kozilek is not the most. Oh no, it wasn't Kozilek. Was it the? It was the Cascade. Is that the Cascade commander?
Yeah, that's the Cascade one. When you cast a spell with 7 or greater, you Cascade.
Yeah. So maybe Kozilek isn't the deck you'll see running up very often. But there are times where you're going to be going against Route. Yes, it's a blue deck, but they're not trying to stop people. Not as interactive as most people usually play. There could be we can switch that Kozilek out for an Atali. So say if it's an Atali and you got somebody playing Mardu, really at that point, they can interact, but it's less likely they're be able to interact. So really you only have to stop one player, notably being that other blue player. And so once you stop that other blue player, that can be offensively or defensively. It basically is a silence at that point. It's tough though, because you also have to have you have to have that instinct to know who to Orim's Chant when you're trying to use it defensively to protect your win. But I have been taking Veil out in some places for Orim's Chant, but they're also, very last thing, I've been recently running both and pulling a Gen Fusion, like the whole why not both thing, where it really just doesn't hurt to just run both if you're looking for real redundancy.
Yeah. I think in most cases it comes down to just try both out, because Orim's Chant, I see Orim's Chant as a piece of interaction. I can see it be used aggressively to prevent somebody specifically who has a heuristic study. Maybe the other 2 players don't have any value engines out. Maybe they're slightly more tapped out, but there's a heuristic study player out who's got a little bit more value, more of a chance to actually get a spell off of the top of their deck to stop you. The Orim's Chants them in response before anything happens. That helps. Instead of casting all these spells, feeding into the heuristic study, then casting your Veil of Summer as a defensive spell, or aggressively. I guess you can do it aggressively also. You can get it out of the way first.
Yeah,
it's interchangeable, But Orim's Chant is definitely a spell that can be considered as a silence effect that could help you, and just to have access to both Veil of Summer and Orim's Chant helps out in that way a ton. Another thing, interaction and silences. I think you are running the correct amount of silence effects, honestly, for a turbo leaning list.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the package is pretty decent. I think it's already pretty good. I'm not 100% sure about running both gifts and intuition. For me, I think that running both gifts and intuition is probably not really something you want to be doing. I think that's more of the case for like really hardcore mid-range control lists that they want access to both of those. I think you're good with either one. I personally would probably run intuition over gifts ungiven just to make things a little bit tighter. I know that TTC is more of a fan of gifts ungiven than intuition, so
We can talk about
I
that.
say take one out, see how it works. Then after you play a couple few games, put the other card back in and see how it works for you after that point in time.
100%.
I am a little confused on why Entomb is in this list for the most part. I imagine that the Entomb is in here to solidify a little bit more breach pattern stuff with Terra entering the battlefield, but I don't necessarily know if there's a specific reason why we're on it. Is my thing. That's kind of like an outlier.
That's a very good call out. I was gonna ask if maybe for even not for Kiki, what is my guy Squee, but we're not doing food chain Squee. That's a very good catch. We're not doing anything reanimator.
And Blaziken says that it was from when they were on food chain. So
so just a remainder. Okay, got it. Good catch, D.
No food chain now. Which great choice.
But food chain
so
wins game.
Yeah, food chains win games and dedicated food chain lists.
Yeah, true. No, that's a good point. A very good point there, brother.
What else is there? Carpet is. Oh, you are on touch too. You are on touch the spirit realm. So
interesting.
I don't necessarily think there is a need for. Well, okay. Actually,
Commander.
I was gonna say you could cut. Yeah, I was gonna say you could cut it, but there is a reason to keep it in the deck for if you are flipping off of Terra, you can hit it, and then that's a piece of interaction you have in your hand. However, my counterpoint for when it comes to running specific cards like this, like Touch the Spirit Realm, which is a good interaction piece, but not an interaction piece that everybody is running all the time, not anymore. I don't necessarily, especially when it comes to commanders that are like this that do a specific thing, and the rate can't be, repeated multiple times to ensure that, hey, if I do get Touch the Spirit Realm off of the top, then I can keep it in my hand. That's something I don't really want to build into. I don't want to run a card in a deck and just be like, oh, well, I could get it off of Terra. You know what I mean? Like, I could. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's just like that card could be used for something else. That card could very well be the Orm's Chant or another piece of interaction that you could be running. And especially too, also, it could be a Daze. Daze is also another spell that you could be running too. I don't think.
Talk on it.
Yeah.
Let's check. Yeah.
I don't think they're.
I love Daze and Turbo List. No days.
No Daze. So yeah, Daze is another one. Daze is a spell that a lot of turbo lists play because when you're trying to win in that early game, turn 2/turn 3, when people are tapping out to put their value engines out, to put their mana rocks in play, and they're tapping out. Not a lot of the time, people will cast a spell, they don't have any extra mana up. Then you get them with a Daze. It's a free spell that you just have to bounce one of your islands, and if you're already attempting to win on your turn, you've already used that mana, that land, to tap for a mana. Go ahead and tap it or float it or whatever, cast a Daze, it's going to be free, bounce that back to your hand. And then there are also situations too where you are attempting something, you're doing something, and you cast a prominent spell, right? And you haven't made a land drop. You cast the Daze, you bounce the island back to your hand. Then after the Daze resolves or whatever, you're able to play that land back again. So there are situations where if you sequence correctly, you can produce actually a little bit more mana. You know what I mean? So
Could I add?
I would recommend Daze. Yep. Go ahead.
Another one that I wanted to even add on that first. That's an amazing line that you would think, when does that ever happen? In the turbo deck, there are times where you only see 2 lands, even if you're pushing on turn 3 for that entire game, so you can make up that land drop. And another thing that happened to me in a past game a while back was I was going for an instant speed win on top of someone's Thassa's Oracle, and I had a Mox Diamond in hand, but no land to play with it, and the Daze gave me the Mox Diamond to then progress the Mox Diamond. That I was able to use that to put out an instant speed Peer into the Abyss, and then I ended up cleaning up after that, because who can't win with half their deck in cEDH. But no, just being able to feed that Mox Diamond is another reason why I really, really love Daze.
Yeah, I think Daze can also be another. I also think that Daze can also be a spot that could be included in here, a card that can be included in here. I also see that we are on Flare of Duplication. I'm gonna be a little bit not harsh with this one, but we're on Flare of Duplication, and we only have access to 2 red creatures besides Terra in the deck. Well, Terra is also a red creature, so there is an argument actually for it, but I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it in this list. It can be run, but I think we could exchange this out for something else. I just don't know what it could be.
Do you think that could? Well, 2 questions I have for you. Do you think that could be the Daze slot? A, and 2, could you talk to me more like I can hear arguments being made, people saying, hey, it's a 3-mana commander, Detro, so now I have to either choose between hard casting Flare Duplication or value off of Terra ETB, and then I can flare for something else or something like, or whatever, not like whatever argument people can make. Like, do you think a 3-mana commander is a little too much to validate the inclusion of Flare Duplication?
Yeah, I think obviously this spell is extremely powerful because of Rograk alone, right? Rograk, you're thinking of a rate 0 cost commander. I have Flare in my hand. I can copy any spell that I need to copy that's on the stack right now. When it comes to 2 costs, it's a little bit rough, but you can argue for it. It's a little bit better there, like for Rao or something like that. When you're running a Flare, I don't even know if they're running Flare, but you can run it in there for 2 costs. When it comes to 3, right? When it comes to 3 cost commanders, it's a little bit harder for me to justify doing that, because you would be surprised how hard, especially when you're trying to play turbo. When you're trying to play turbo and you're trying to win in that turn 2 to turn 3 or turn 2 to turn 3, how difficult it actually can be to cast a 3-drop commander. Now I will say Terra is a red and a green, which is a little bit easier to cast in some cases, but it's a little bit difficult. It's a little difficult, and to jump over that first hurdle of being able to cast that commander, then to also have to be like, then to also have that Flare of Duplication in hand, and then be forced to sacrifice that commander or that red creature is a little bit tough too, because then that turns off your Fierce Guardianship, that turns off your Deflecting Swat, that turns off a lot of these other spells. Maybe you haven't gotten those spells yet. Those spells are still in your deck. You have a Rhystic Study out. You only have a Flare Duplication as a piece of interaction, right? If that's your only piece of interaction, you sacrifice your Terra before you get any of those other spells. Hey, guess what's on top of your deck? Fierce Guardianship. Well, that would have been great earlier. Yeah, it's a little tough. Now, that's not to say that it's not impossible. Terra being red does add to a reason as to why Flare Duplication could be useful, but I think that if you're not running ample amount of other red creatures in the deck also, that this could be a card you could cut. You're only on Ragavan and Darcy, Dragon Rage Channeler.
Wait,
right?
y'all don't hard cast your my bad, I cut you off. You don't hard cast Simeon? Yeah, you don't hard cast Simeon for your Flare, dude? Nah, I did that. Never.
I have had to hard cast a Spirit Guide one time before. I've had to hard cast it to win off of a food chain, which you are not running anymore.
Ooh.
So there is no, there is you don't need it. You don't.
Yeah.
I think you could run without it unless you put more red creatures in the deck. I don't think there's a need for it, and I think the creature package is already pretty good where it's at.
100%. I dig it. Yeah.
Some more things. So you already talked about the Entomb, Flare Duplication. Gavin brought up something I wanted to cut or talk about. So DRC might be a cut too. I know it's good with Breach, but you have Terra as a backup Breach graveyard filler. Might be wrong here.
Yep.
And no, you're not. That is perfect. Darcy, for the most part, at least 4 or 5 months ago, was played a lot more in blue farm decks, Underworld Breach decks, because it fills the graveyard a lot more with the surveil triggers. Terra is exceptionally good with Breach because you are able to fill your Breach up a lot faster. You're milling 5 cards, which is a lot of cards. That's a lot of cards that go to the graveyard. Depending on what those cards are, and depending on if you can get your Breach fast enough, that can set up wins alone. And to be able to set up intuition lines and gifts on given lines that much easier with having after casting Terra proves to me that maybe Dragon's Race Channeler probably shouldn't be in there also. And yeah, just like Blaziken says right now, I only had it because Flare felt like lackluster every time. Exactly. So you had it in there because you wanted to run the Flare duplication. But if you cut the Flare duplication, you don't have to run the Darcy anymore.
There you go. There you go.
So now it's a trickle effect because now you don't have to run that spell. You don't have to run Darcy anymore. It frees up another slot for you also. It's good in Sans blue Breach decks specifically, in my opinion. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Trying to think, and I forget who it was. Jin Fusion brings up Spellseeker Ephemerate combo in this deck too. Spellseeker Ephemerate combo, if you don't know, the Spellseeker Ephemerate combo was a combo that was played traditionally back when Darkseid was around, but a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Where you would where casting Spellseeker would be a 1-card win con.
Yes.
In a deck that has access to Final Fortune and Underworld Breach.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fortune, Underworld Breach, and Ephemerate itself. So any Jeskai plus deck could run this combo.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to run it back in the day when I first started playing. I used to run it in Jessica Ishai. That's who I used to run it in. I used to run it in that commander pairing a while ago. But if I remember correctly, and I don't even have to remember because Jin Fusion put it up here. So the line example, Spellseeker to get Ephemerate, then Ephemerate targeting the Spellseeker to get Final Fortune, cast the Final Fortune, then you move into your extra turn, rebound the Ephemerate because the Ephemerate goes to exile, I think, right? It goes to like exile and then it gets cast again at your next upkeep.
Yep.
Yeah. So it gets cast again at your next upkeep. So when you go into your Final Fortune turn, you cast Ephemerate targeting the Spellseeker to flicker the Spellseeker, get Enlightened Tutor before your upkeep or before you draw your card for turn. Get Enlightened Tutor off of that next search, get Underworld Breach. Then you can draw the Underworld Breach for turn, escape the Ephemerate, target Terra, escape LED, crack for 3 white, escape Ephemerate, LED, blah, 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 blah. You go through the combo. So all of that to assemble this Underworld Breach combo. Now, keep in mind, Spellseeker is 2 colorless and a blue. It's a pretty big spell to cast, right? It's a pretty big spell to cast. And this is an older combo. I will say this is an older combo. So a lot of people who have been playing cEDH for years know this combo, and it is easy to interact with.
Yes.
It is very easy to interact with. You are casting non-creature spells, and you're casting non-creature spells that need to target a creature on the battlefield. So that means any counter spells or any removal or kill spells stop this combo dead in the tracks. Any spells that prevent you from casting spells for free, like Vexing Bauble or Drannith Magistrate, anything like that prevents it. And actually, Drannith Magistrate prevents. Actually, Drannith Magistrate and Vexing Bob will prevent you from doing Underworld Breach combos in general. So if you're doing this combo into those pieces, it's not going to work at all, anyways.
Right.
But this I think that this is a combo that can be played. I think that Ephemerate. I have played a deck in TTC server where someone was playing Terra and they used Ephemerate, and I had thought to myself, like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. You can Ephemerate targeting your Terra, but I forget what the specific cards are needed, but you are able to assemble a Brain Freeze like combo with Terra, Ephemerate, and Lion's Eye Diamond. I think those are the pieces.
It was. I remember it was something Fox. Shout out to him. It was we were playing a game. It was me, you, and him, and another cat. I can't remember who the fourth pilot was at this time. It may have been D-Mage. Can't remember. But it was we had talked it through. But it was Underworld Breach, Terra, and Ephemerate, and Lion. Was it LED?
I think it was Lion's Eye Diamond.
Yeah, you can completely cut out the Brain Freeze, which was really cool. And the cool thing about it, and notably Gavin had brought this up, because Ephemerate's not technically a fully dead card, because you can always value flicker your Terra as well, and so it just made more of an argument. So he was running stuff like Cloud Shift as well, so it was really cool, like synergy value thing he had going with this list. So really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, and the Ephemerate becomes less of a dead card, because when you're running it in something like just a Jeskai pile, the Ephemerate is only ever going to be used against the Spellseeker. Yeah. But if you need some extra stuff in your graveyard in order to assemble your Underworld Breach combo, the Ephemerate can be used with your commander also, you know? So it's not, like TTC said, it's not 100% a dead card. And your Underworld Breach lines become that much, what's the word? It becomes a more possibilities for it to happen a lot sooner, because now you don't have to be like, you don't have to go for, I need Brain Freeze. I need to go get Brain Freeze. It's just like, no, Ephemerate's in the graveyard right now. I can just use Ephemerate, Lion's Eye Diamond, and Underworld Breach, and I just have my commander. It's exactly the same. It's a little bit more work that I have to go through, but hey, I'll flip Brain Freeze eventually, you know? More cohesive, yeah. So I think that the Spellseeker combo can be used. I think Ephemerate, which is strangely enough, I never would have said this 2 years ago, but I think Ephemerate can be used in this deck more than Spellseeker. You could run both options if you would like to, but I think Ephemerate can be, or Cloud Shift, can be used in this deck it can be great.
Yeah. One thing I saw him bringing up was Ragavan. Is it still good to keep in the deck? Want to touch on your opinion. I recently had a game where I completely blundered it. I have a funny Ragavan Turbo 5C story, but I want to allow you to touch on that first.
Ragavan. I think Ragavan is a card that a lot of people have put in the pile of cards that always need to be in every cEDH deck that can run it, and that is not necessarily true. You are running a deck. Ragavan is more of a mana dork to non-green decks. You know, you have to wait an entire turn cycle. If you're just casting it for a red, you have to wait an entire turn cycle and hope that nobody has any blockers to attack them and maybe get a card from them, right? Some people argue that Ragavan is not a staple. It helps color fix and it helps get you ahead, most certainly, but you're already in green. So I think if you want to try out some more spicier picks, if you want to try out some more cards to just test things out, I think Ragavan can be cut. But I also know that Ragavan is just a decent card to have to help out with those extra turns. And Blaze of Kitten says that it dies to OBM so often. Everything dies to OBM. You know what I mean? So you can't build around the fact that people are running OBM. You got to play the cards that you got to play. If it dies to OBM, oh well. If it was a mana dork, it would have died anyways. Yeah. Everybody's running, and some people, me personally, I don't like to run Bowmasters for most of my games. So, but it's in every deck, and that is fair. But if you start to build decks around what your opponents are going to be doing when every opponent is doing it, you're going to be in a loop that's never going to end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. Oh no, they're playing Underworld Breach. I need to have this specific piece in order to be able to stop their Underworld Breach games. Everybody's running it. So unless that effect is going to stop every other person in that pod that you're playing against, unless it universally stops them all from playing Underworld Breach, there's no point in playing a card that stops a specific player from playing Underworld Breach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy,
100%.
You don't want to do that.
that.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah. If 100%. I agree with that OBM statement 1 billion%, and the way you analyze that, as well as your fairness to Ragavan. I agree that I don't think it's a staple, and I was less bullish on it previous to my recent game with Ragavan. I was pushing. I was inspired fully, very much by your Wandering Minstrel list, your 5C Wandering Minstrel list, and I was like, man, I don't think I can make my Sign of the Ur Dragon list as fast as, but at least let me try. And so I tried, and I did it. And I pushed a turn 2. I was playing a game on the TC. In the TC server, and I was just playing a game, push a Adnaz out with the colors floating, and I was flipping for Adnaz, and it got to a certain point where I was like 6 life. I'm like, I had everything I needed, but I needed a black source, and I kept going, and I had 3 life left next flip with the Wheel of Fortune, and I died. And I looked at my hand for another 5 seconds, like, was there nothing I could do? What could I have done? What could I have done? And with the colors floating, both spirit guides in hand, and rituals for days, I was like, oh, I could have just dashed the Ragavan to give me my color fixing. And for me, that's when it opened my eyes that Ragavan, for me, in my list, is not just a 1-mana dork, it's a 2-mana rock. Now, it's a very bad 2-mana rock. The same way how it's a bad mana dork because you have to do combat damage to get your treasure. But on turn 2, where it's less likely you're able to get the dork out, and you're running both spirit guides, you have all these things you can sack. I'm not sure if you're on Culling the Weak. Like, it's just a lot of arguments for it. Yeah, there you go, Culling the Weak. For me, my experience was in that moment that Ragavan became a staple for my 5-color turbo list, because now I can always know that I can convert double spirit guide to the black mana I need to put out the Culling the Weak, follow that up with the Cabal Ritual, because I just been throwing cards in the graveyard, and move into my more explosive spells, or just all the options around the sea. Or if I need a blue pip to get out that brain freeze because I kind of choked myself a little bit on mana, like, it really opens up a lot of doors. So I've personally been in a turbo Adnaz 5C list, not just for the color fixing, not just for all the things that most people try to tell you have to run it. I love it post Adnaz. That dash ability when you're pushing main phase is really strong.
And yeah, like I said, it's a card where you got to really look at it and see what it does for you as a player. Just like TTC said, there was a situation where he went deep into an ad nauseum, needed to fix some colors. The Ragavan was there to be able to fix colors. That is a 5-color issue. You're playing a 5-color deck. Maybe that's something to consider. It's probably just a play style difference, you know what I mean? Or thinking about sequencing a little bit different. Converting Ragavan from being, like, how I think about it, I think of it as a mana dork. That's how I think about it. TTC thinks of it as a mana rock now. I've never thought about it like that. But now that this is the case, now you can apply that to your games in the future and see, is this a card that's really actually worth the spot that it has? How often am I actually being able to connect with it if I'm dashing it? How often am I going to be able to do this? You know what I mean? Is it really worth that slot? Because it was Tiamat, or it was Scion?
This
that you did that.
So actually, it's funny you brought that. I was going to try to hold my tongue, but we have a good chunk of time left. That was my Sign of the Earth Dragon list. Not too long after that, I played another game on my Tiamat list where, because we run the card called Dream Halls, I dashed a Ragavan, got the treasure I needed, and it went back to my hand, and I cast the Dream Halls, and I was able to discard the Ragavan to cast the Tiamat. Now that, of course, does not apply to this list at all. Does not apply at all. But it's like another situation where being able to get it back to hand, you can use that as a way to go to cleanup, discard it, and now feeding your breach. But you got the treasure off the same turn. You didn't give people a turn rotation to come around and have a blockade for you because they're afraid about their life or losing their top card or something. And I could talk days about this, but I don't want to take too much time away for this specific card. I just know the 4 categories that I've been surprised that I love this is that it's a mana dork, a mana rock, a piece of interaction because you can hit people's top deck tutors when they don't expect it, especially from Imperial Seal, the sorcery speed version of Vampiric Tutor, and then fourth, in the Wars universe, it can technically be a little bit of card advantage, but uses more of the luck factor. Though I wouldn't recommend mulliganing for Ragavan as a card advantage.
No.
But sometimes you hit a tutor, you hit a fish, hit a Ristic, and you get a little lucky. So yeah, it's a little RNG-ish, but it's an option for those who want to run this card.
Yeah, and I see that Gin Fusion also says that Ragavan for Cabbage Merchant. I think those two cards are doing something a little bit different. Ragavan, like we've talked about, is a little bit more of a flexible piece that can establish in the early game. Cabbage Merchant is kind of used more for mid-range games where you're establishing value engines on the board permanently so that you can accrue value over a few turns, right? So I think there is a world where Cabbage Merchant can be put into a Terra list, but I think it has to be a Terra list that is dedicated to mid-range first, turbo second, or turbo first and mid-range second. Like there is a little bit more of a hodgepodge combination of both playstyles that the deck is trying to accumulate, and not really hard into one. You know what I mean? So in that deck, I think Cabbage Merchant could be added to the deck along with Ragavan. I don't think they really occupy the same spot enough to be taken out, to switch Ragavan out for Cabbage Merchant. So
yeah,
I think that is the case.
100%.
Something else too.
Please keep going, Flo. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. But something else too that Gavin said a while ago also is the creature package in the deck is a little extensive too. You are running 17 creatures. I think the creature package is actually just right. We've already talked about how maybe Dragon's Rage Channeler needs to be taken out probably. I also think that I want to say that Archivist of Og and Wang Shitong are occupying the same spot in the deck. I don't think it's necessarily bad to have a creature card draw value engine in the 99. I don't think that's bad. But I think having two cards that do the exact same thing when you're not traditionally playing a control version of the deck, you're not playing something like Tivit where you need as many draw effects as possible. I'm sorry, I just took a. Oh no, you are. So when you're running two cards that are doing pretty much the exact same thing, I think probably one of them needs to be cut for something else in the deck also. Yeah, and like Evan says, two blue pips in five colors feels bad. Yeah, that is a case. Traditionally, I don't want to say traditionally, but I want to say normally for how I build 5-color decks, one pip and a colorless is arguably what I want to work towards. I want to lean as far away from having double pips as possible, right? The only double pips that I really want to mess with, is Thassa's Oracles, because that one allows you to win the game, right? So and Necropotence, right? Those are really the only ones. So maybe that one. Wang Shitan has been okay, but I like Archivist better. Yeah, I can see how Archivist you'd probably draw a lot more cards for that. So maybe Wang Shitong, take that one out. Wang Shitong, from my understanding, is a little bit more of a control piece, because control players wait on the amount of mana that they have. They wait for a long period of time. So casting Wang Shitong for actually more than 0 is actually a feasible thing when you are playing it in those types of decks. In this deck, you're arguably only ever going to be casting it for 0. Maybe, I won't even say maybe. No, you're definitely casting it.
I was like, yeah, you're right, brother. I agree.
Yeah, no.
You were 100% right there, brother.
Some other things. And you are on Grand Abolisher too. So actually, see how Grand Abolisher works, because Grand Abolisher is just powerful enough to where it can be argued for like any deck. It can be put in, but I would keep my eye out for that, for how often you're actually able to cast it and be able to turbo out that win too. Another thing, I would also recommend adding This is one of my personal favorite things to do. So I love adding Summoner's Pact to these types of decks. When I was on Wandering Minstrel, a linchpin that was able to win me a lot of games is the fact that I ran Summoner's Pact. And Summoner's Pact is a green spell, 4/0. It's an instant. It says search your library for a green creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 colorless and 2 green. If you don't, you lose the game. Hitting this off of an ad nauseum can get you a multitude of different things. This card becomes flexible because it can get you a single green mana, or it can get you, for the cost of another green mana, it can get you 2 red mana to play your Breach, right? You are already running Spirit Guide, you're already running Elvish Spirit Guide, and you're already running Tinderwall. Both of these spells you can get these off of Summoner's Pact. Both of these spells. When you're flipping for an ad nauseum, and this is more of a case too. I don't know traditionally when you're trying to cast ad nauseum, but for me, it was very, very powerful to have an effect in the 99 that could be flexible enough to fix my mana and to get me an additional mana whenever I'm trying to play mana rocks and things. So to have Summoner's Pact in the 99 means that, okay, when I see the Summoner's Pact, I can get Elvish Spirit Guide. Okay, sweet. I saw a Mana Vault earlier. I can at least cast the Mana Vault, and I can continue casting like an Arcane Signet or a Fellwarestone. If you keep going, you're like, okay, Elvish Spirit Guide. I've got an Elvish Spirit Guide in my hand. Summoner's Pact is in hand. Okay, I can cast Summoner's Pact, go get Tinderwall, use the Elvish Spirit Guide to cast the Tinderwall. I have 2 red mana. I can cast Underworld Breach, or I can cast Final Fortune. You see what I mean? The Summoner's Pact becomes more flexible, and also too, for most cases, for my Wandering Minstrel deck, the reason why it was so powerful too is because then it could also get 6, which was a very powerful spell in that version of the deck. So I don't know if there can be another green creature that is going to
Cabbage Merchant maybe.
Have that type of effect. Cabbage Merchant maybe, but the thing about Cabbage Merchant is that you are casting the Cabbage Merchant and you are passing the turn. That is the only time that's ever going to be relevant. Or you know for a fact that when you cast this Cabbage Merchant in your turn and you start trying to go off, that people are going to cast spells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is a play pattern that can work, but you're going to get only maybe like 3 or 4 or maybe 5, food from that. And that's only going to give you like 2 mana. You know what I mean? So like you've invested 3 mana to make 2 mana, so it's not really good rate. But
I don't like it.
I still think that having access to the Summoner's Pact, even though you don't have access to a third powerful green creature that you can get access to off of an ad nauseum, I still think that is something to consider because it gets you access to Tinderwall, gets you access to Spirit Guide, which is extra mana, And when you're casting those ad nauseums, especially if you're doing it on a main phase, that's when things get really, really tight and you can't, every little bit of mana counts and you need to have specific pips. You need to make sure that things are sequenced in the correct way. It becomes very, very difficult. And to have a spell that gets you both red mana or green mana in a deck where you're running Underworld Breach and things like that, that's it. It is what it is,
It's great. It's phenomenal. Yeah. I love that tech. I remember you were talking in the TC community, then you were putting everybody onto it, and I was like, get the heck out of here. And my favorite one that you would I can't remember if you said it this time, but you even brought up like turning that green mana and leveraging Manamorphose to even make that any colors you want. And I thought that after that, I was like, get the heck out of here, dude. So you're saying we go from Summoner's Pact to Spirit Guide or Tinderwall to then go into Manamorphose, so then that gives us the 2 blue for our Thassus or whatever the heck we want to do, or maybe because you're on Grand Abolisher, that may give you the double white for the Grand Abolisher if you want to stay on Grand Abolisher. Like now, the problems you're experiencing almost go away, and it comes from running a 0 mana card that makes technically your Adnaz perpetually better, because it's almost like now your Elvish Spirit Guide only hits for 0 instead of 3, which was, for me, when I heard this, really was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. It really showed off the genius for like the why that was my favorite brew you've ever done, because I was like, damn, like he went in his bag with this one, brother. No cap.
Yeah, and when I built the Wandering Minstrel deck, I had built it in a way to where I wanted to cast Adnaz at my main phase.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to invest 5 mana fully into this spell and still be able to convert with it, right?
Yeah.
So now when you apply that same playstyle and that same mindset, but you're able to cast it comfortably at somebody else's end step and still be able to convert from that. The to be able to get that Adnaz off and to be able to convert, that's what you got to do, right? Like, and to add the Summoner's Pact means that the Summoner's Pact is not just one spell. This is now a multitude of different spells, and depending on what you've already hit off of it, if you've already hit Manamorphose, if you've already hit Mana Vault, if you've already hit any one of your other mana rocks, it now becomes that easier to solidify the win now. Mana Vault, I can go get Spirit Guide, like I said before. Manamorphose, I can go get Tinderwall. I already have Elvish Spirit Guide, cast the Elvish Spirit Guide, Tinderwall. I can cast my Necro. I remember there was one game I had where I had a Tinderwall. I think I used a Tinderwall I had Manamorphose in hand. I used the Summoner's Pact to go get a Tinderwall. I converted the Tinderwall, and I had 1 extra black, like from a land, and I was able to convert that into a Necropotence and just immediately rip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having access to a spell that's flexible for you, that can allow you to convert and change a lot of your mana pips, and make sure that when you're flipping things off of the Ad Nauseam, that it becomes much easier to convert everything into itself. That's what you want.
I dig that. Yes. We also have notably Gavin bringing up Grinding Station, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Currently, we don't see that in the sideboard, and if you all aren't familiar, Grinding Station is a breach combo card traditionally used with Underworld Breach. Whenever it enters, or any artifact on your board, your opponent's board, you untap this artifact, and you can tap it to sacrifice an artifact, and then target player mills 3 cards, and this costs 2 mana for this artifact. What's your thoughts on Grinding Station in this list?
Honestly, Grinding Station is one of the cEDH cards that I have never played too much. I have not played this card enough to know how good it actually is. I know that it is a good backup piece, because for most Underworld Breach decks that do not have access to blue, I don't know how relevant that is in a deck that does have access to blue. I know that you are running Smothering Tithe, which, if you have access to Grinding Station and Smothering Tithe, can be a great interaction. But outside of that, I don't actually know how relevant that actually is, honestly. It's just for me personally. Good. I haven't played with this card enough. That's the thing. I
recently was debating this in my head, and I was literally doing a whole I was just mind debacle. Do I want to run Grinding Station? With all these other things, because I had a game with Trigger where he pushed a turn 2 Grinding Station line that was on a blue farm list that was so tight. It was like Breach, Grinding Station, and then he just started and then was leveraging like a Soul Ring, floating a bunch of colors, and it was this crazy line that really, really cool. My experience though to it, did I cut you off, brother? My apology.
No. I needed I need to know some experience.
Yeah. So
my experience against it.
I don't have a huge experience playing it myself, but witnessing specifically Trigger Witch playing this card, it was brilliant. First of all, like I brought up, reading the card explains the card. Every artifact that enters the battlefield mills things. So that synergy that you brought up with Smothering Tithe, that means if you're forced into a mid-range game, you can sit in your Smothering Tithe, and in addition to your Terra ETB, you have a now way every time if you just have too many treasures, because it's omniscience, basically start getting rid of things. But the line specifically Trigger did, slight misplay on the game, on the specific game, but he was able to convert a Soul Ring, Grinding Station, Underworld Breach, exiled his Thassa's and everything, but it was just literally like 1 blue pip off, where he was eventually able to float a shit ton of colorless mana, then make a bunch of blue pips with Arcane Signet. Then when he hit his Brain Freeze, even though he exiled his Mnemonic Betrayal, his Wheel of Fortune, his Thassa's Oracle, and I believe he was on Praetor's Grasp, he still could have, and we talked about it after the game, he could have used his Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, and all the storm he picked up and the remainder of his library to brain freeze his 3 opponents, because he was seat 1 on blue farm, seat 2 was Rao, I was playing my Turbo Sign, seat 4 was Oh, Turbo Marnius, our guy Daryl on Turbo Marnius, his artifact version. And so that was a line that he was able to present on turn 2 with Grinding Station. Very powerful. Even with that experience in my belt, I sat and chewed on it for a little bit though. And for me, I decided not to run it in my 5-color Turbo ad nauseum list because I asked myself why. And the big word to use earlier is, well, it gives you a redundancy, and that's really good. But then we have to ask ourselves, like, do we need the redundancy? Like, if you're running, like, the great redundancy is a redundancy for what? Brain freeze. And if you're already running Smothering Tithe plus Wheel of Fortune, that's one redundancy. If you add an Ephemerate plus your commander, that's another redundancy. You already got brain freeze. Like, if your argument is you want another way to win quickly, then personally, I say go crazy. If you got a free slot, add it in. But if your argument is that you need a redundancy to brain freeze, I would say at that point, you already have a bunch. And when it gets like, you don't need another, like, the question you have to ask yourself is, do I need more ways to get to my Adnaz or Necro, to execute my Adnaz or Necro, or to actually win the game? And if you're already feeling like your portion of the game or your ability to win the game is taken care of, then I wouldn't add in Grinding Station. Even though after explaining the crazy line trigger, which established and pulled off, it was very impressive. It was, like I said, slight misplay, but the fact that we were to talk through, like, oh my gosh, on turn 2 you had this super tight line. Even seeing all that, I don't think we needed it in a 5-color show. I think the green gives us so much more. I would more quickly run Summoner's Pack than I will run Grinding Station. Having seen all the sample size of his win and your wins, I run Summoner's Pack first.
Yeah. I think it just comes down to personal preference. I think that it's a card that is so similar to Brain Freeze in everything that it does, and is needed in decks that are running Underworld Breach but don't have access to blue. I think it's up to you personally. If you think that Blaze a Kitten, if you think that you could run Grinding Station, I think go for it. Try it out. I know there's a lot of potential cuts that we've asked, like we've brought up for the deck. Maybe there might be an option for it. I'm not sure, but I think it's kind of like up to personal preference when it comes to that deck or comes to that card.
Yeah, I agree. Very good call. Okay. Before we transition to our next deck, was there any major? Well, I want to just throw one more thing on the throw towards you. No, actually, notably, he's already in all the cards, so it's less of a card switch out, more of a mindset pivot. Personally, D, you know this is about me, that I've been on a stint with turbo consistency, mid-range adaptability. I want to be live from turn 2 to turn 12 because innately I have a lot of potential to be a patient player. I have a long time playing mid-range control where I was doing Marnius back in the day. My old version of Sign was like a mid-range control. Like, even if I was playing a turbo, like a more turbo mid-range list, it was still, I can quickly just change my play style and start playing damn near control if I wanted to. However, in this new age where there are so many variants of turbo decks that are just blatantly like Rao, Monsoon Mage, Itali, there's another contender out. What's the other turbo decks we have out now? Rao, Itali, Rocksai, and Guy Root is the other one from the recent deck tech. Shout out to Azzy. For me, I don't want to have to, when I'm playing against these decks, have to mulligan to be interactive. I want to say, okay, well, I'm just going to mulligan until I can win early, or I was going to lose this game either way. And so when I do that, that's what I love about the archetype of turbo consistency with mid-range adaptability. You have multiple lines, whether it be Adnaz, Necro, and all these different things. Or I bring up Gifts Ungiven. We could talk about that in another video, but Gifts Ungiven as being a turbo line, but you're able to use what I like to call mid-range punishers in order to establish yourself and hold yourself in the mid-game. Maybe you can't out mid-range like a Kennen or Blue Farm, but you can hold in as long as you leverage some good politics. And when those mid-range punishers come up, those cards are notably things like Culling Ritual. So something that it punishes mid-range decks for doing the mid-range thing, for like filling up their board with all these resources. Culling Writ also can convert into your wins, whether it be main phase Adnons, beseeching into a Thassus, or whatever you want to. Another example of a mid-range puncher that I love is Smothering Tide.
Obliterate.
Oh, thank you, Detro. That's what I was going to read. Fucking Obliterate. No, jokes aside, the concept of it is a card that you can cast, and it shifts the game so much that people have to respect it. And Smothering Tide is another example of that. Another big example of that is Rhystic Study. It's a card that it can turn Roxai into a mid-range deck if they want to. Like, they can sit back, play the more control role. Maybe they're not going to be the best control mid-range deck because of how the deck is slanted, but they run enough interaction pieces to spot here and there. Okay, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to copy this to do this. And instead of converting to a win, I need to be patient because everyone mulliganed for me. So I'm just going to sit back on this Rhystic Study, communicate to the table that I'm not pushing an early win. I understand. I see all the interaction you have, but you have interaction for that turn one, but you just let that Rhystic Study go from player one. I could push here, but I'm going to play Rhystic Study 2. Let's just play a slow game. And the next bit one, Orcus Bowmasters. I don't want to run this card. I am with Detrove. I want to cut it. But at the rate for everything it does, there is nothing like Orcus Bowmasters in the format right now, respectfully. It does too much for 2 mana. It should be banned, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'll do what I can, what I got in my hand. And for now, I'm just going to play it. It's even better in Reanimator list where you can use it with Hoarding Brewlord for Convoking, and that's a different conversation. But I bring up all these cards, and the last 2 ones, there's like mini mid-range punishers. Like you have the Mystic Remorse, Esper Sentinels, Lothal Corrupt Sheriff. These are baby versions of mid-range punishers. But the point of I'm bringing up all these cards is these are cards that by themselves can change the tide of a game in your favor. And even you don't have to particularly run them because you're trying to be oppressive. They technically have a mode that turns on that if you adjust your mindset and your playstyle, you can turn into a mid-range deck. So yeah, category of cards that I use in my turbo list. Even like I could just literally just change my mulligan style and I'm a mid-range deck now, but I'm still I'm built to be a turbo deck.
Yeah.
Well, any closing remarks, D-Trove? I feel like we could probably spend another 2 hours on this deck from all your experience on Wandering Minstrel, but I know we got one more deck to talk on tonight. But any closing remarks for Terra Magical Adept?
Yeah, nothing much. Just a few cuts. We've already established that the Flare of Duplication, that there's 2 cuts to be made there, Flare of Duplication and the DRC. We've already established that the Entomb, just a leftover piece from Food Chain, all that type of stuff. We identified kind of like the mind state that you kind of have to be in, where your turbo mentality, putting the cards in the 99 so that when you're casting an Adnos that you're able to convert those spells much easier than just putting just random spells in the deck. Because Ad Nauseam is a strong card, but Ad Nauseam is a stronger card when the 99 can support what Ad Nauseam is doing, right? So that's why we suggested adding cards like Summoner's Pact to get the Tinderwall, to get the Spirit Guide, to get those type of spells. Outside of that, it's a very powerful color. It's a very powerful commander and a very powerful 99 that is going to stay tried and true to cEDH until the end of time. So, great deck, great commander. Can't really do anything wrong with that. Just some fine tunings to make the deck that much better. You know what I mean?
100%. Thank you so much, Blaziken, for the submission. We really, really loved to see your deck, and I really love the conversation the community was able to have. With that being said, we do have our 3rd deck. Are you ready, Doc?
I am.
Let's get it.
All right. So we've got the other Terra. We've got Terra, Herald of Hope, for a red, white, and black legendary creature, human wizard warrior. What is this? Trance,
yeah.
Trance.
We can say trains if you want to. That's more fun to say.
Trains.
At
the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, so this is a cEDH deck submitted by Noble Team, and I wanted to talk about this deck because this is a little bit of a spicier deck. I have not seen this deck I have not played against it whatsoever, and I wanted to kind of like talk a little bit about it and my thought process around it so far. So if you already cannot tell from the commander's combat damage triggered ability, right? This is a reanimator deck. This deck is trying to reanimate spells, reanimate creatures that are 3 power or less from the graveyard. It also does fill the graveyard too at the beginning of combat. So at the beginning of combat, mill 2, you hit somebody, you can bring a creature back that is 3 power or less. So if we go to the creature package right now, which is the most important aspect of this deck, there are a lot of creatures that are 3 power or less. There's a couple of value creatures. The normal package that you would come to expect when you're playing white, Esper Sentinel. I was going to say Draenith Magistrate, but people don't really play Draenith Magistrate as much anymore. But Lothos in there. Just a lot of value creatures. When I was doing my research for this deck, and I did a little bit of research, and I wanted to see what other Terra Herald of Hope decks were doing. I wanted to see kind of how this deck wins. And from my understanding, from what Noble listed out in their forum, they win primarily through combat damage. The issues that they're having, that Noble team is having with the deck, is interaction is tough, and it uses combat for the win, right? So, combat wins are usually traditionally used as a secondary win con for the most part. A lot of people traditionally just use Thassa's Oracle, Underworld Breach, whatever combo specifically goes with their commander, and then we do combat damage win cons, because combat damage is very hard to win with when you're in your second main. You know, it's very hard to win like that when you've already passed your combat phase. But for my research, there was a list that I found that was running a few different cards compared to what Noble Team is running. And Noble Team, I actually have a question for you. Is what do the sacrifice outlets really do for you? So things like, I think that's a Blood Artist right there. There's a Blood Artist. There is the 3-cost, Sephiroth. These type of effects, you know, the Blood Artist effects, what do these normally do for you? Because I was a little bit confused. If you're trying to reanimate creatures from your graveyard, like, I get sacrificing them and then bringing them back with Terra, but I think that play pattern's a little bit too what am I trying to say here? It's a little bit too casual commander, at least for my taste. Unless the effect is like astronomically powerful, it's a little bit too much like, oh look, I'm able to get this back, sacrifice it, you lose 2. Oh, I'll do it again next turn. I pass. That's what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. Specifically, Noble is saying it is symbols the Forsaken Miner combo with Soul Trader and Blood Artist. Thoughts?
Soul Trader and Blood Artist. Okay.
So you got Forsaken Miner plus the Blood Artist and or Sephiroth, and then you got a Warren Soul Trader right here to create a loop to kill the table. Combo wise. Combo.
That's not bad. I think the interesting thing about Terra here is that it's a commander deck that can be built in a lot of different ways, and not enough people are playing it. So it's really like a wild west scenario where people are just playing whatever combos they feel. It's not solidified yet, you know. And from the list that I saw, it was not running these types of effects. It wasn't. But from what Noble says, it does make a lot of sense to have these types of effects. The only thing that I worry about is just the card quality aspect. That's the thing that I worry about, because when you're playing these types of effects in the deck, it becomes very, very hard to get the specific cards you need. You know what I mean? And I am not a huge fan of playing decks in general where I have to invest more than 2 to 3 cards or commander-centric stuff. And even though, and for let's just say, for instance, I'm building a K9 and 14th Doctor deck, right? I'm building a Sans Black K9 and 14th Doctor deck. Traditionally, this this deck is supposed to be used as a food chain outlet with the 14th Doctor, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. To do that, I would need to run 2 extra Doctors that don't do anything for me. I would need to run Food Chain. I would need to run Mist Hollow Griffin. And I'm sure there's another card I would need to run. That's at least 4 cards right there. Squee.
Yeah.
I'd need to run Squee. That's 5 different cards in my deck. Yeah, that's 5 different cards in my deck that I'd have to run in order to win the game off of Food Chain, right? That's probably the normal way that you're supposed to run the deck, and that's cool. But I don't want to do that. That's a lot of cards to invest into that, right? And I'm just not. I personally just don't want to do that. And I get the same sense with Terra Herald of Hope, where there are a lot of cards that you have to invest into the specific game plan. And Gavin says it's like Thras Bruce, kinda, but I think it's better right now because you get K9, which turn on early interaction. And there's a little bit of a tangent. That is correct. Thras Bruce is exactly the same way. But when you play Thras Bruce, the same thing happens where you are forced then in a situation where you have to play Thrasio-centric cards, right? I didn't want that. If I play Thras Bruce, well, then I got to play Thrasios cards. And if I play Thrasios cards, and then the normal trickle that happens too. If I play Thras Bruce, then I have to play Thrasios cards. Then the Thrasios game plan isn't as good. It's if I just go to Rog Thras or Yoshi Thras. You know what I mean? So when you play those types of decks, you are not forced traditionally. You can play. You don't have to play the normal stuff that they would normally play, like for Thras Bruce. You know what I mean? But you get in a situation where you're just like, I wish I just could play. I just want to play Thrasios better. And the best place to play Thrasios is Rog Thras or Yoshi Thras and stuff like that. Yeah. But reverting all the way back to Noble's list, this is a situation in which you are playing combo pieces and specific creatures that align with your combo, but you're playing 3 to 4 different pieces, right? And it's a very intrinsic combination of cards that, while they all work and function to help you win the game, it's a lot of quote-unquote dead cards that you have to end up drawing. And then Noble says, when I first started brewing Terra, I looked into the Kiki Jiki lines, which I was going to bring up earlier. I'm glad you're bringing this up now, since those are technically more efficient, but the fact they come back tapped is also the issue there. That is fair. I did not realize that they come back tapped. So that is true. I think if this is one of the commander decks that you really want and you're really passionate behind, I think there is definitely a case to run these effects 100%. You know what I mean? If this is the commander you want to play and this is how you want to do things, I understand. You know what I mean? Sometimes sacrifices have to be made, and sometimes I got to play 3 to 5 different cards specifically for this deck in order to work. I think that definitely having silence effects is huge, because that means that you're able to solidify your wins on your turn without having to worry about any types of piece of interaction other than channel effects, but you're already on deflecting SWAT. So, you're on deflecting SWAT and the 2-mana one also, unstable something in the instance. I forget what it was called.
Say that again, brother.
Unstable something. I said unstable. It's a spell that you used to run. Unstable.
Amulet? No.
Unstable something. It's in the instance. I know it is. He's running it.
All right. Instant.
Yeah, at the bottom there.
Untimely malfunction?
Untimely malfunction.
Oh, yeah, this card is the best card in the world. This is better than Underworld Breach, dude. I'm playing. I'm joking. Redirect Lightning definitely kicked this with its tail. I took it out of my list, but I do love it.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But, yeah. This is one of those situations where, you're running multiple pieces specifically for the combo, and that's fine. That is personal preference, but I know for me, as a brewer and as somebody who likes to play, I want to run as few cards. If they are specifically only good for my commander, I want to run as few of those types of cards as possible. And Noble already said I can definitely cut 1 or 2 of them, the 4 different lines. Multitude of lines, it can't hurt, but you also have to keep in mind that you are playing a commander that does not offer quote unquote card advantage. It allows you to get rid of the top 2 cards of your library, which is nice, but you don't have selections on if those cards are going to go back to your hand. You know what I mean? They go to your graveyard, which is good. So the thought process around putting a whole bunch of stock into the creatures so that you have a higher chance to mill those creatures into the graveyard is nice, but that means you also have the higher likelihood of those cards being in your hand also. There was also a couple of cards that you were not running, and I did see in the chat that you and Gavin were talking about your hesitance towards running Gamble. From my understanding, I'm right there with you. When I was running Wandering Minstrel, I also thought about cutting Gamble because I'm just like, this card is red. I don't ever want to cast red. Why would I ever want to cast red other than Underworld Breach? I don't want to do that. But can you check real quick to see if they're on Underworld Breach?
Yes, they did say this. Their main win con is Breach. Their second is the Warren Soul Trader shenanigans, and then they also, you had brought up Combat was one of the things they listed as well.
Yeah. So Gamble is a very, very good card in this deck. It's very, very good. It allows you to set up your breach lines. It also can, in some situations, allow you to set up your reanimation effects also, if there's a unique way to get about that. I want to say that it can do that, but it's very hard to force a situation in which the card you actually tutor for off of the Gamble is going to be the card that will go to the graveyard. It's hard to force that situation unless you have like a Lion's Eye Diamond out first and you tutor for Gamble, and you're tutoring for Gamble, tutoring for a tutor, which is crazy, but you're tutoring for Gamble, crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, then you get the Gamble and you're able to cast what spell you need. It's a hypothetical fairyland that probably isn't the best place to be at that point in time, but still, Gamble is a very powerful tutor. You don't have to run it. I think that it is definitely a card that if you're not really messing with, that you don't have to run it. But it does make your breach lines much easier because it allows you to put the card either in your hand or into the graveyard where breach is already on the battlefield. So it sets up those lines much easier. Another card that I think would work really, really well in the deck is Scheming Symmetry. Scheming Symmetry is another top deck tutor.
You go so deep in your bag, dog. Hold on. Why you had to pull out the bag, bro?
Yeah. So Scheming Symmetry is a piece that I think is going to be very powerful. Is a piece that I think also helps your game plan out a lot. It allows you to top deck tutor for a card that you need, and when you move the combat, that card goes into the graveyard immediately. So any of your top deck tutors actually do this. So having another top deck tutor is very powerful. You're also already on Opposition Agent too. So having access to Scheming Symmetry, in response, hold priority as you're targeting somebody, Opposition Agent, and then let the Scheming Symmetry resolve, means that you get a top deck tutor that you can put into the graveyard with Terra, and you get a card from their graveyard. Maybe a piece of interaction, maybe another silence effect, maybe another win con. You know what I mean? So having access to that too is very powerful. And there are also some situations too where Scheming Symmetry early game can be a great mulligan fixer. There are multiple situations when I was running Wandering Minstrel where I thought about running Scheming Symmetry because I was mulliganing so low all the time because I was running like 39 lands. Not even 39. Like I was running so many 29, 25, or however many lands. It was hard to mulligan correctly for that deck. So I wanted to use Scheming Symmetry as a way to help fix that mulligan. Because what you can do, and this is I love doing this. What you can do when you're running Scheming Symmetry and you are super duper low on mulligans, right? You're super duper low on a mulligan. You're down to like a 4 or whatever. What you can do is you can be like, hey, I'm going to cast this Scheming Symmetry. Somebody make me a deal, or I'm just gonna give it to whoever because I need to get back into the game. So tell me what you're gonna get with this, and I'll target you, and I don't have to give it to this other person. Like, help me out, help me help you, help me help you. You know what I mean? Because I'm in a desperate situation. So if someone can get like he said he's gonna go get a Soul Ring. Can someone do something better? You're gonna go get a Lotus Petal. Can someone do something better? I'll go get a land. Bet. You get a land, I'll go get whatever I'm gonna get. I'll get a fish. I have to get back into the game, man. I'm down to 3 cards now. Right. You know what I mean? So in that situation, I think of it as a mulligan helper too, because oftentimes it's a classic situation too when it comes to things like Wish Call Talisman. People, when they see a Wish Call Talisman on the battlefield, are always quick to say, "Hey, dibs, choose me." But there's always going to be somebody who says, "Hey, give it to me. I'll just go get a land with it." And there's always going to be a person who hears that, and it's just like, "Well, they're a Gaia's Cradle deck. Why would you give them the land? Give it to me, and I won't even activate it. I'll keep it on my battlefield. I won't even activate it."
Straight up.
Because there's always somebody scarier. The fact that somebody is tutoring for anything, and their go-to de facto answer is "I'll go get something" instead of just not activating it, is a good indicator that people are willing to sacrifice the opportunity of getting a tutor to prevent somebody else from getting a tutor.
Yes.
So when you use the Scheming Symmetry as a way to get, as a mulligan fixer, to be like, oh, you can't even get a fish. I don't even know why I said fish earlier, but to get like an Esper Sentinel, or to get some other type of valued creature or something like
Ripples
that.
of the Ripples of Undeath.
Ripples, better, whatever the hell that green enchantment is, Sylvan Library, better Sylvan Library. I'm gonna go get this. Like, just be honest, because if you're using that card to get back into the game, and somebody else is just going to use it to just go get a land or a mana rock, that works better in your case too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the political advantage is nice. The political advantage is huge. And also too, there is going to be a situation too where somebody needs a specific tutor in order to stop somebody else. I have a Scheming Symmetry. I will choose you. Tell me what you're going to get. Is it in your hand already? I need to see you go get that specific card. I'll cast this spell for you, and then you can get that. And then you just go get your win, and then you just win right now. You just go for a win. Oops. You didn't say I couldn't do that. Sorry.
Can we, political corner real quick, can we just analyze what you did right there? Hey, because sometimes they'll say, I'll go get Force of Will, or, well, if they'll say is, I'm going to, or they have the cadence because they say if I'm gonna go get Force of Will, then they're lying. We don't want to lie. It's a social contract. But they say like, oh, I want to be able to use a Force Will on it. Then you respond back or say, do you already have the Force Will in your hand? Whether they want to answer that question or not. Okay, well, look, for me, TDC always says, hey, I don't want, like, I like to be surprised. Don't tell me the cards in hand, but I do need you to go ahead and reveal what you go find. This is not a vampire tutor for you. This is a mystical tutor. You're going to search your library, you're going to reveal the cards you found, and bop it boop bop bop. I know what you got. You know what I'm saying? And so like that. So I wanted to bring up that was very important and very high level of you, Bob. Like, if you're going to make those political deals, you got to use these skills that D-Trove are bringing up as well. You can't just say, oh, I can just op on. What if you don't have the opposition agent? Do you have a way to still get the full, like our parents said, squeeze all the water out your rack when you're done using it? Can you get all the water out this card, get all the value out?
Yeah. Because these types of spells, like Scheming Symmetry and Wish Call Talisman, they can, just as easily as they can set you up to win the game, they can set you up to lose the game just as hard, right?
Yes.
Because you don't have any control of what they're going to tutor unless you get specific information and specific promises, quote unquote promises, from them to get a specific card, right? And they don't have to follow through with those promises. They don't have to. But that's the risk that we have to take whenever we're playing a social format like we are, right? We got to cover all of our bases.
Yeah.
Going further down, you were not on Praetor's Grasp or Tainted Pact, which are good. Tainted Pact, I can understand. It's a little bit more of an extreme tutor, last minute tutor, but Praetor's Grasp, I think, is a pretty good, decent card in case you were trying to get another type of win. And also running both Tainted Pact and Praetor's Grasp allows you to also steal people's Thassa's Oracles. It allows you to steal those types of spells so that you're able to still, honestly, I forget about P-Grasp a lot. A lot of people do. But yeah, Praetor's Grasp is a good way to get another person's win con or another person's value engine out. And you already being on Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and things like that, and Warren Soul Trader means that you're able to cast these types of heavy black spells also. Gavin says people give away way too much to get the Wish Call Talisman, Wish Call or Scheming Symmetry. Guys, please don't agree to go get a land. Yeah, with how much power creep is coming up nowadays, that could mean anything. We are in the age where, what is it? Lumra, where Lumra and Wandering Minstrel and now Rog Thras are all playing land combos in their decks now. So now you have to also worry about what type of land are you going to try and get to.
Cavern of Souls.
What type of land are you going to get?
Mistrise Village. You fall into the trap of it.
Yep.
Yeah, you said I'll just go get a land. They go get a Cavern of Souls and play the Grand Abortion, and you're like, wait, I didn't think you were like. I agreed to the deal. Like, what you mean?
My answer will be get your command tower. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that you have to do.
No, sure, because I'm with you. I've had so many people try to do that to me, and I literally say, well, what land are you going to get? I mean, and they'd be like, I don't know, I may get this, I may get that. Okay, well, why don't you think about it fully right now, that we can agree to what land you're going to get right now? Oh, I don't want to do like, okay, well, if you don't tell me, like, I just go to the other player, because as you said, Detrove, someone else is going to take the deal either way, bro. Everyone, like, we're already playing low land counts. All right, I'll take a land. Forget it. All right, whatever. Or I just won't activate it, period.
Some more spells. You are not on Dual Caster Mage. Not on Dual Caster Mage. It makes sense. I have to say it makes sense. Dual Caster Mage is a little bit iffy. It's a little bit iffy because you have to run the... What is it? You have to run the copy effects in the deck, like Molten Duplication and Twin Flame, effects like that allow you to copy specific creatures, or allows you to copy specific creatures that you're targeting with it. Now, from my understanding, you are not on any of those effects in your list, obviously, because you're not on Dual Caster Mage. But if I can make an argument for you to run those spells, though, there is a specific case in which you are running, let's just say you're just running Run Effect. I only think you need to run one of those effects. So let's just say you're running Molten Duplication. There could be a case in which you are going for a win, but your commander, you have the ability to cast, you haven't cast your commander at all this game, and you cast your commander and you have a Molten Duplication in your hand, right? You cast the Molten Duplication targeting your commander. You kill your commander, then you have a hasty copy of Terra on the battlefield that you're able to swing with. You move to combat, you mill your 2, you're able to go to combat immediately, and you're able to immediately win because you're able to have your commander ready to. It has haste, right? So I would argue that there is actually a good enough reason, because in most decks that run Molten Duplication and Twin Flame, they, other than Dual Caster Mage, there is no other spell that Molten Duplication or Twin Flame really are going to interact with, because we don't have access to Dockside anymore, right? So there's not really a reason to run these spells in the deck. I run Arena of Glory for that effect on a land. Exactly. So you're already planning on having these effects in the deck in general. So I think having Dual Caster Mage, having Dual Caster Mage as a way to also still win the game, as a kind of a backup plan, as a clean, neat, a tight bow. It's like, it's just your vegetables. You got to have some type of way to be able to win the game easily, and just like that. 2-card win line. Yeah, exactly. Also, you're already running Saw in Half and the Hoarding Broodlord combo in your deck too, right? So Saw in Half also combos with Dual Caster Mage and allows you to be able to win after combat too, because the same way that Dual Caster Mage interacts with Molten Duplication and Twin Flame, it interacts the same way with Saw in Half, as having an extra copy. But this time, you're able to copy literally any spell that's on the stack. You're able to copy that infinitely, as much as you want. Lightning Bolts, Demonic Tutors, Cabal Rituals, whatever you want to copy that's on the stack right now, you're able to copy it, and you're able to continuously get copies of that spell over and over again, because you have extra copies of Dual Caster Mage, right? So you're already running an effect that's basically Twin Flame. Let's just say that. So you only need to add Molten Duplication in the deck, right? That's literally it. You add that, you can combo off with Dual Caster Mage, or you can get a hasty copy of your commander to combo off and get whatever piece you need to right then and there. It's that easy. Another card. You were not on Necromancy. I think somebody who's playing Hoarding Broodlord should probably also be on Necromancy as an instant speed way to reanimate your Hoarding Broodlord and attempt to win that way, right? Now, that's a little bit rougher to execute an instant speed win if you don't have access to what is it? Final Fortune? Can you check to see if Final Fortune's in there? Is Final Fortune still in this deck?
No Final Fortune yet. Nah.
Okay, so no Final Fortune. Yeah. So if you, I do think that if you're not going to run Final Fortune, maybe you don't need to have Necromancy. But we are living in a day and age in cEDH where having access to instant speed win cons is kind of a necessary thing, right? And to be able to sit and wait for the last possible moment as a Mardu deck and be able to cast a spell that allows you to attempt a win at instant speed is very reliable. Now, Final Fortune is a little bit of an iffy case because you need to be able to make it to the end of that turn. But if you know somebody has a win on board and they just need to be able to untap, to have access to the Necromancy to cast that, reanimate Hoarding Broodlord, do the whole combo and go and get Final Fortune and whatever spell other spell you need to in order to be able to win the game, to make sure that they don't have a turn and that you win before they do, that is also relevant. Yeah, you don't have crazy options in Mardu. You have like, what is it? Emergent Zone. You have Emergent Zone, and that's it to play at instant speed. So it's very tight. But to have access to that anyways, because there are going to be specific cases where you actually do need to be able to win before somebody else, but you're out of turn order and they're going to have a turn before you do. Having access to those type of spells is probably going to be pretty important.
Yeah.
And akin to the Necromancy is a Shallow Grave too. TTC has put me on Shallow Grave for some time. It's a card that I've been looking towards whenever I built my Scion list, and a card that's very interesting and opens up a lot of avenues for Necropotence as a card to have in the 99 also. So I think having access to Shallow Grave as another reanimator effect in the deck. Also, yeah, it's a reanimator deck, so having another instant speed reanimator effect is always good, right? And well, I don't think they're on Karmic Guide, which was one of the Kiki Jiki lines that they had in the other deck. I don't think they were on Karmic Guide. Is that it?
Yes, we have a Karmic Guide.
They are on Karmic Guide. Okay, so there could be a specific case and scenario where you need a specific card. Maybe somebody's going for an Underworld Breach line, and you see that there's a Drannith in your 99. Was it?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Drannith. So you see that Karmic Guide is on top of your graveyard. You have a Shallow Grave. You need to be able to stop this Underworld Breach from happening this turn so that you can win on your next turn. You cast Shallow Grave, reanimate the Karmic Guide to bring back the Drannith Magistrate. The Drannith Magistrate then stays permanently on your battlefield. The Karmic Guide goes back to your graveyard. It's great. Having these options means that you're able to still be able to interact. What's up?
Notably, the Shallow Grave, the Necromancy sends it to the graveyard. The Shallow Grave sends it to exile, whatever it reanimates at instant speed.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the Karmic Guide will go to exile, but the reason I said this is because you'll have a permanent Drannith Magistrate on the battlefield. The Drannith Magistrate will stay on the battlefield because it gets reanimated because of the Karmic Guide.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so
yes.
the Karmic Guide will go away wherever it needs to go away, but you'll have a permanent Drannith Magistrate on the battlefield, or whatever one of these stacks pieces or value pieces that you need out on the battlefield right now will stay out. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Or I sack it to preserve or you could sack it. Yeah. Sack it if you can.
To like a warrant or something.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Another card that I think could also be useful here is Demonic Council. Demonic Council is basically, especially in a deck where you are going to be, they're not on it, right? In the sorceries. I didn't see it.
No council as wait. No council. That's a diabolic intent.
That's a diabolic intent, yeah.
No demonic council, no.
Yeah, it's a tutor for demons where you have to hit Delirium.
There you go.
Yeah. So with you already being a deck that's kind of focusing, that has access to milling in the graveyard, and you're running the enchantment that also mills you, there is a high likelihood that you're going to have Delirium turned on very relatively quickly in this deck, and to have access to a second demonic tutor is incredible. To be able to tutor for whatever card you need, we love that.
Yeah.
Not to mention I also have Razketh. Yeah.
Yep.
We love it. So one other card specifically unique for this list that I wanted to bring up is Insidious Dreams. And I wanted to ask Noble if they had any insight on this one. I didn't look too deeply into this one because the list that I was looking at was using this kind of like as a pseudo. I used to run Insidious Dreams and was looking at swapping it in, as like a pseudo Doomsday. So you're able to discard as an additional cost. You're able to discard the cards in your hand and then search for those. Discard X amount of cards and then search for X amount of cards. Then shuffle and put those cards on top in any order, right? So it sets it up as kind of like a pseudo Doomsday, as if you're able to discard roughly maybe like 4 to 3 cards. This is an instant also, so you cast it as somebody's end step, you discard 3 cards, you're able to tutor for 3 cards, and you put them on top of your library in any order. You put the card that you want to draw on top of your library, and then the 2 cards that you want to mill with Terra's combat damage trigger on top after that card that you're about to draw. Then you draw that card, then you can set up for a win that way. I think this card is a unique case and is actually kind of like pretty flexible if you really think about it, because it can set up a lot of unique, interesting things. And especially depending on what type of triggers you have on the battlefield, like Esper Sentinel triggers or Roiling Undeath, is that what it's called? Or Ripples of Undeath, Undeath triggers, anything like that. Ripples of Undeath, anything like that. Being able to cast this in response to those types of triggers is very, very powerful. And to make sure that you have the spells that you need and that they go where they need to go, I think having more flexibility around that is something to consider also. Might test it, can make setting up the clunky combos easier. Yeah, most certainly. And especially with running a lot of the sacrifice pingers that deal a damage or make your opponents lose life and stuff, having that little bit of extra consistency with your tutors makes things a lot easier. And then there is another, I want to ask Noble too if they know this card. There is another version of Karmic Guide available. If you could search it up on Scryfall for me real quick. It's Sister Hospitaller. So it's Sister Hospitall.
Shout out to Warhammer, Marnie's Calgary game for the rest of my life, but I've never seen this card before.
So this is another Karmic Guide effect. I'm just gonna say Sister Hospitaller, I guess, or Hospitaller.
I'm getting hospitality vibes from this, but then it's a taller at the end.
She's doing something to that poor lady. That's
whatever
not
it
hospitality.
is. Yeah, you mind if I read it real quick, brother?
You're good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. 4 colors to the white and black creature, human cleric, has Medicus Ministorum. When this creature enters, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to its mana value. Okay.
And it is a 3/2, so it works with Terra. So this is just another Karmic Guide effect in the deck. I don't necessarily know if you need another Karmic Guide effect, but it doesn't hurt to have an additional reanimation creature on the battlefild that can get any creature. So I just thought that was interesting, just to have another effect like that in the 99.
Yes.
But outside of that, I don't really know how this deck plays. This is a very unique deck. I just really had a lot of things to say about the specific card choices in the deck that could make things a little bit smoother. Playstyle wise, I have no idea how this plays. I think it plays probably a little bit slower than I want to say it plays slower, but I imagine there's probably going to be a situation where you get the exact card you need in the graveyard, and you're able to just switch like that on turn 3. You know what I mean? You get Terra on turn 2, turn 3. You're able to get out the cards that you need to. So
I'm with you there. I haven't seen this deck in action yet, but I'm sure we will see it eventually or soon in one of our games that we all do together. I wanted to know, before I slid into Pinnacle Monk, I wanted to ask if was there anything else you were going to touch on, notably?
I think the one thing that did kind of make me question things is the Academy manufacturer. I don't know why we're on Academy manufacturer at all, because Terra doesn't make clue foods or treasure tokens. We make clue food or treasure. It's a combo with June and Cauldron Familiar.
But he's not a Hulk pile though. Question. So how is he assembling these buried alive then? And do you need multiple buried alive? What's your thoughts on that? I don't think you need multiple buried alive combos.
Yeah, my only thing, and I think Gavin was talking about this earlier too, with something to think about, is that the list needs to assemble a lot of 3-card combos, right? And a lot of people might traditionally think that having access to a litany of 3-card combos, or an access to maybe like 1 or 2 extra 3-card combos, actually is a very good thing for a cEDH deck, right? Like you would think putting, Eternal Witness, Snap with Gaia's Cradle and a Thrasios deck is great. It's fantastic. Eternal Witness does all this and blah blah this, and Snap does this, But oftentimes what ends up happening is that those combos just become insanely hard to assemble. It takes too much time, too much mana, too much investment, and it is oftentimes just easier just to cut right to the easiest thing to do, because in cEDH there can be a lot of situations in which you've assembled a lot of advantage and it's very hard to keep up with you as you pace out further beyond everybody else. But there's also a lot of situations where you are just riding the coattails of somebody else, where you are riding the exact same speed as somebody else and you just can't get ahead, right? And when your entire deck is built around 3-card combos, that's an extra step that you have to take compared to everybody else who's casting Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, who's casting Lion's Eye Diamond, already has a tutor early game that they cast early game, and Lion's Eye Diamond already assembled. It becomes very, very hard to do. Assembled a lot of the same pieces of different combos. That's true. All these combos can work together, but they still require 3 different permanents or 3 different spells to be activated or cast at the same time. So it becomes harder to do these than compared to everybody else who only has to cast the same spells, but only 2 times. They only have to cast 2 spells. Yeah. 2 spells. It's over. You're done. You got to fight me now. You got to fight me with a breach on the stack. You got to fight me with a breach out. I got all this stuff already assembled.
Mm-hmm. And every time you counter my counter spell, I recast the counter spell. Like how most times you bring up like Pact of Negation plus Underworld Breach. Like you can't let the Underworld Breach resolve. A Pact is in the graveyard. That's the game, bro. Type. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I hear you, brother.
So even though Academy Manufacturer combos well with X other creatures, it doesn't do anything on its own. You could have Smothering Tithe or any other token generator out producing stuff, but it doesn't do anything on its own. When you are putting 3-card combos that just are there just for the combo, that's all they're going to do. So when you draw those cards, well, then you have to go for the combo. But what if it's not the right time to go for the combo? You know what I mean? I would much rather see another draw effect in the 99, like Trouble in Pairs. I'd rather see Trouble in Pairs, something like that, something to just accrue you value. I need cards in my hand. I just need to be able to do something. And whatever cards I don't need in my hand, I can put in my graveyard. And that means the next turn or the turn following, I can attack with Terra and get those cards back onto the battlefield.
100%.
Technically, they are all the same combo line, just 5 different ways. If that's the case, cut a few of them. Make some more space. Add in a couple of extra cards to help make sure that those combos become easier to assemble. You know what I mean? The necromancies, the shallow graves, those type of effects. Then the necromancies and the shallow graves, those effects, those are combo pieces, but those are combo pieces that also work to get any of your extra cards out too. If you need a Grand Abolisher from your graveyard, you cast the necromancy at on your turn to put it onto the battlefield. You know what I mean? They have utility. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to, is that they become flexible. Having flexible pieces is better than having dedicated pieces to 3-card combos, right? Yes. Flexible means that they work in any stage of the game, no matter what happens. Things are not always going to go your way. You know what I mean? So,
well, with that said, speaking on win cons, because I want to bounce off your point about these 3+ card combos, which I agree with Gavin. I agree with Dicho. I don't think anyone's saying they're bad, but I will say they're hard, especially when you have to also think about what about my protection, or like now I also have to think about like 4 cards, because you have to think about 3-card combo, and then you got to find a way, if you're pushing third and 3 to 5, you got to get that Voice of Victory or Grand Abolisher. Oh, but what if you also need another Thief here? Then that's 5, and it can get exponential very quickly. With that being said, we like to talk about 1 to 2 card combos, and it centers around one of my favorite cards in all of Magic the Gathering, because I love Dragons. No, it's just, this is a powerful card, Hoarding Brute Lord. Notably, D-Trove has brought up a lot of cards to support this, and also Razaketh by proxy as well, but notably he's brought up Shallow Grave, Necromancy, and a bunch of other powerful cards that support like things like Dual Castle Mage and all these other things. And as we were going through your list, I noticed you were only a few cards away into turning Pinnacle Monk into a finisher, which is significant because recently, like I was bringing up earlier, I was having a conversation in the Scion 2.0 chat with, it was me, Busy Baxton, Daryl, and Gen Fusion. And for some reason, I was like, I don't think it replaces Thassa's Oracle if you're in a 5-color list, but I could see the argument, whether it's Thassa's is banned or you just don't have access to blue, that you can run Pinnacle Monk as a finisher, especially if you're on the Reanimator strategy. And it turns into a 2-card combo that assembles and puts everything together purely off the cards you're already running. And the floor of the card is, it's a land. The ceiling is, if you got a bunch of extra money, it's recut. Well, the floor of the cards is a combo piece. Next, you get the land. And then the final piece is like, all right, cool. I got recursion for instant sorcery if push comes to shove. And we were already running those cards. Notably, the combo line I'm referencing to is you are able to leverage your Entomb here with a Shallow Grave and Necromancy, which you're not on Shallow Grave right now, you're not on Necromancy right now, but if you decide to add in those cards, but you do have Animate Dead, similar effect, we're going to Hoarding Brute Lord, we all know about that, and then you already have your Saw in the half, which is right here, and then you will get this card that you're already running, Burnt Offering or Culling the Weak, but you know you have to get Burnt Offering because of the red mana, but you use Burnt Offering and you get also Pinnacle Monk. With that being said, if you then, what you would end up doing is you can use the Entomb if it was Necromancy that brought it back or Animate Dead, you can use the Entomb to go find a Shallow Grave, but you first want to generate an infinite mana. And if you have Saw and a Half plus Burnt Offering and or Culling the Weak plus the Pinnacle Monk, you can generate infinite black and red mana. Post that, then you can after that leverage the Saw and a Half plus any cards you want to cast any instant or sorcery infinite number of times as long as they're black and red. And you don't have Metamorphose yet, but you can then you can leverage that to make as many colors you want to draw your deck if you were Metamorphose. And after talking with specifically Daryl, I started to see that especially this Pinnacle Monk combo, especially when you look at it from the frame of getting to it through Hoarding Brute Lord, you can do like the infinite black mana we talk about with Culling the Weak plus Saw and a Half, the infinite black or red mana with Burnt Offering plus Saw and a Half. We can do infinite creature tokens, notably you leveraging the infinite mana plus Saw and a Half plus Shallow Grave, and then you can go into Final Fortune, notably the suggestion D-Trove made to go into an extra turn to just swing infinitely at the table. And then if you just want infinite instance of sorcery cast, you can do the infinite mana plus Saw and a Half plus insert any tutor. You can either use like D-Tutor to grab your whole library, Praetor's Grasp, another card D-Trove suggested tonight, to grab all of your opponent's libraries and then immediately cast a will effect to become another finisher. And then you also can leverage Infinite Storm. Say if you just want to do, now this is nobly if you ran Blame Freeze, but you can't because you're not running blue, but you can get the Infinite Storm up, and there's multiple ways to win with that Infinite Storm count. And that I wouldn't suggest forcing that into the list, but I can talk on days to this because I really was scratching my head, even in a Wooburg list, where I was like, dude, this is real. And it's once again, it hits a lot of the metrics we talk about, where it's a 2-card combo. And I wouldn't say force all these cards in your list, but if you're already planning on running Shallow Grave, Necromancy, Praetor's Grasp, Final Fortune, it just turns it like, hey, I already have the combo on my list. Now it's less about should I run them, or more of like, do I understand the full grasp of what my list can do? And that's why I really think as you listen back to this, once the VOD comes out, really listen back at all the suggestions D-Trove has, because piece by piece, he gave you all generically powerful cards that also support this Pinnacle Monk line. And now you have the option to either go Hoarding Brute Lord into Burnt Offering to Breach, so you can do your full Breach combo, because when you recast the Sawn Half, you can go get your Lion's Eye or any rock, plus I believe he's already on the grinding station, or no grinding station. Okay, different conversation. I'd love to hear your opinion on that, D-Trove. But then you can take that to the next level to just do so many things. You have Alter Dimension. You can mill people out that way as well. So bring this up not to make you add the package, but as you chew on what D-Trove gave you, at this point, you just unlocked a new combo. You didn't just add the individual powerful cards. You added new combos. And it's just 2 cards, Entomb Effect, Reanimation Effect, GG. Little is 4 mana with Entomb Reanimate, and the Saw Half Convoke. Or you can, if you have Saw and Hack already in hand, you can do Entomb Reanimate and then cast a Dark Ritual off of the Hoarding Brute Lord to cast a Saw and Half. So you can do this as soon as turn 2 with 2 lands. And 3 cards in hand. Once again, 3-card combo falls apart, but you may luckily draw the Saw and Half. That's besides the point.
Yeah. And to build off of that too, like what Noble said earlier is that they're running like 5 or so cards that specifically combo in a way to work with like Blood Arts effects, right? So then we convert a majority, maybe a couple of those combo pieces from being cards that only work for a specific combo to cards that all work individually at different points and for different reasons, but can also combo together.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you're changing it from they only work in a combo to all of these cards can combo, but they all work individually.
Yes.
That's what we want.
100%.
That's what we want.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%, brother. And honestly, like, I gotta say this, man. As you kept suggesting cards, I was like, wait a second. I was just talking about what was I thinking about when I was talking about these cards? It was just, it's hilarious. Like you literally systematically assembled like a full combo tutor chain for the list. Like, and it's cool. Like you brought up, you keep saying it's like, we don't have to run as many dead cards as we think. And that's really cool because the power creep situation that you brought up as well. So I really do love this, and I love the suggestions games, brother. So 100%, man.
You stick with it. Wizards is going to print something they shouldn't have. So just stick with it. They're going to print something they shouldn't have.
They're going to print the Rakdos Martinado eventually one of these days, man.
I don't know. They might. Target something in somebody's graveyard. You get a treasure clue token and something else. And then you can put Academy Manufacturer back in, and that actually would make like they're going to do something.
Facts. 100%. Yeah. Well, with that said, D-Trove the Doc, do you have any other closing statements on this last list for the night?
I think, let's see, the last remaining thing, that they are not on Necropotence. Now, you don't have to, but if you're going to be adding the Necromancy lines, if you're going to be adding the Shallow Grave stuff, there could be a world where Necropotence is definitely in the ballpark of being used in the deck. If you're able to exile a large portion of your exile a large portion of the top of your library, you hit the Hoarding Broodlord and you discard it in a certain fashion that you're able to reanimate it back to the battlefield. That is a surefire way to make sure that you do get the Final Fortune. Now, just like we mentioned earlier, winning at instant speed is not really something that Mardu can really do. But if you're able to dig further down for the Final Fortune or have an extra turn spell at sorcery speed, I know like Warrior's Oath is like one of them. If you're able to have one of those effects, that is something that could be very, very good. And especially in a deck that does not have access to blue, a consideration. But I don't know you as much as a player, Noble. I know that you're around in the community a lot, but you don't have to run Necropotence. I know that I have thought about running Grixis decks that do not run Adnaz or Necropotence for a full control list, but that might just be a personal preference. But if you're planning on adding those extra cards, that could be a consideration, just for speed case. Also, one other thing, the untimely malfunction 100% can be replaced with redirect lightning 100%. I honestly do truly believe that even if you are running Necropotence, that untimely mount, not untimely, that redirect lightning can still be used. I'm still of the ballpark that redirect lightning is still that powerful enough of a card that even if I am running Necropotence, I am down to keep that card, because I just won't go past 5. I have a redirect lightning.
That's
I
it.
have a redirect lightning in hand. I'll just stop before like 7, 8.
Yep.
Stop right there. Make sure I get the win. If not, then this card's dead and I have to keep going.
Yep.
That was in there before redirect was printed. LOL. Yeah. Well, easy swap. But other than that, it's a very interesting deck, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
100%. Well, with that said, D, once again, D-Trove the Doc. I want everybody to drop a D-Trove or drop a doc in the chat, man, for an amazing job you did this evening, and just everything you touched on was spot on, amazing. I I loved all of it. I really appreciate the expertise. And I have to say, dude, I don't know about y'all, but I loved having the cameras and see D-Trove's facial expressions and the passion he was putting into, like the background of scenery. It just felt like he calming and soothing place, and was just coming from a place of love, brother. I really enjoyed this. So if you all enjoyed having the live camera view as well for the audience, then 100%, please come out and come to the next Deck Doctors and make sure to check the live VOD out. But to the audience, you all know what I have to say. I have to say thank you so much for coming to this amazing event, TC event again. This is a monthly event that will continue to happen for the perpetualness as long as ThunderConductor is the thing, which will be forever. But none of this will be possible without the TC Legion. This is the Patreon community, notably, that keeps the lights on and allows us to do what we do. Notably, with that said, I want to give a humongous shout out to our Is It tier patrons, notably Ziggy and the Praetor, and also our Mono Red tier patrons, Bissy Baxon, B-Rad, Blazedkin, and MTG Reaper. These guys are rock, and they keep the lights on in a way they could not imagine. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you again to D-Trove for being amazing. Thank you so much for the TC community for showing up and showing out. I got to give a humongous shout out to the Discord. Like, we going to quickly just shout out to Marzitin, been here the whole time, Gen Fusion, Noble Team Sit, Gavin, Blazedkin, Daryl's not here anymore, but he was here. Like, I can just list off, Star Trekkie popped in, everybody, big thank yous. But of course, none of this would be possible without our guy, the one, the only, D-Trove the Doc. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. It's been super fun helping out with these lists, and I really do appreciate that you guys at least value what I had to say personally as a deck brewer and stuff like that. And I love doing this stuff because I've been where everybody's been at, you know what I mean? Thinking I want to change it. I want to change the format. I want to come up with the next thing that's going to change everything. You know what I mean? And sometimes that will be you. And if we keep doing this, guys, I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm sure it's going to happen one of these days for sure. We just got to keep going.
Yes. Thank you, brother. I love and agree. With that being said, y'all be great. We will see you all soon at the next Deck Doctors, and y'all be having an awesome week. Peace out.